5 to 6 minutes, possibly the proceedings will begin. The court will give out its verdict. What's expected, Anisha, soon as the court opens up for this matter? Will it be a direct judgment, or will the court be patient enough to hear some of the arguments? What's really expected in the due course of today?
Well, Nabila, today is only and only for the day of the verdict. Remember, the judge will come, sit in the court and pronounce his verdict. It is very, very unlikely that any arguments will be heard. But, however, with that, Ryder, I would also say that if the court says that this matter is maintainable, if the court says that the petition can be heard further, then the court could then, in that scenario, give a date for the next hearing on the continuation of the matter and when they will hear the detailed arguments in this matter. But that will only happen if the court says that these petitions by the Hindu women are in fact maintainable. At the moment, we are still waiting for an update from inside the court. My colleague Kumar Abhishek is inside the courtroom. He will be bringing us minute-by-minute updates. However, reporters are not allowed inside the courtroom proper. We will only find out what has happened inside the courtroom when the lawyers come out and give us and tell us the details of what has happened, because of the security situation, to ensure that there is not too much of a crowd or any sort of untoward incident does not happen inside the court premises. Reporters are not being allowed to enter the courtroom per se. Reporters are waiting outside about 20 meters away from the courtroom proper, with a huge police deployment inside the court premises as well. And you can see here as well, there are a lot of police personnel, a lot of police deployment to make sure that all the people who've landed up here in Varanasi to wait for this verdict, nothing wrong happens here in the city. So in just a few minutes, it's about 1:55 now. We were told that the time of sitting of the court will be at around 2 p.m. Normally, courts sit by around 2:10, 2:15. So we're just waiting, basically counting down the minutes till our reporter inside tells us what the verdict is. Back to you.
All right. I also have Samarth Srivastava joining me right here, right from Varanasi. Samarth, what's the mood right behind you? We saw some singers, some performers, some priests. They're all gathered outside the district court there, and they're very keen to know what the court has to say. But do tell us, if at all the verdict does not go in their favor, has there been a protest that they have already decided to carry out? We heard some of your guests who we were speaking to saying that they're going to set out on a padayatra in protest if the verdict is not in their favor. Tell us more.
Nabila, it is just a matter of minutes now, because every person concerned with this particular case has already entered inside the court. And as you just said, we spoke to the Hindu Mahasabha people, members out here. They clearly said if the thing doesn't come out in their favor, then they'll move forward towards Prayagraj, 110 kilometers from here. That means they will look for Allahabad High Court. Though they were confident enough that they will be getting the positive signal from the court, but they said if 1% the decision doesn't comes out in their favor, they will move to Allahabad High Court. So we are not witnessing anything like protest would be coming out from the Hindu organizations if something like that happens against them. But what is clear and evident, the law and order situation needs to be monitored by the UP police, and that is why police personnel have been deployed outside the local court. And if a cameraman pan camera towards the local court out here, you'll see that police personnel at the entry gates, district court, a lot of people around, and this is the scenario out here at the local court, because it is just a matter of minutes when the decision that was reserved on September 12 will be pronounced today regarding the maintainability of the Shringar Gauri case, because it is not about Shivling or what they say fountain. It is about that prayers in the premises in the Gyanvapi complex, which is regarding the Shringar Gauri thing. So that's what we are getting from here, and out here the atmosphere, if my cameraman will try to show you the lateral view from here, you will witness that how much people have arrived at this particular place in a way just to witness this historic movement, because this case was on since years. And it is not just that when the women petitioners made it in 2021, it was also on when in 1995 when Sohan Lal Arya, the first petitioner, filed a petition regarding this Shringar Gauri case, because in 93 Mulayam Singh Yadav government obviously disallowed the saints to offer prayers, and since then that area has been barricaded and cops were stationed there. But today the scenario seems different, and if this comes out in favor of Hindu advocates or the Hindu side, it's going to be a big boost for them, because they were here since months, since years regarding this particular thing. While the Muslim side, while speaking to India Today TV, they clearly said that yes, they will move to the Allahabad High Court if the decision would not come in their favor.
Right. You know, Anisha is also with us. Anisha, you're right outside. There was this huge survey that was done, that was carried out, which India Today has also accessed, and that survey very clearly established that that fountain, which the Muslim side claims it to be, is could basically be a Shivling, indeed, as per claimed by the Hindu side. They also found the Nandi facing the Shivling as well. So all of this was established in that very elaborate survey, and that survey, it seems like, has given some kind of impetus to the Hindu petitioners, where now, because of which they strongly believe that the verdict will be in their favor. But it's ironic that the court is not even going to look at the survey report today. That's not even on the agenda.
Well, Nabila, the thing about court proceedings is that people like you and me, when we are outside the court, whatever we believe, whatever we see out of our own eyes, we believe, and we think that this is what is reality. What the court, unfortunately or fortunately, really does is that it looks at the process and it looks at the papers that are actually before it. According to the legal process that has to be carried out in this particular case, first step for the court will be to consider whether the petitions that have been filed by these Hindu devotees, by these 5 women, are in fact maintainable or not. If at the first step the court says, I'm sorry, we can't even hear you out, then the survey becomes meaningless. Of course, for you and me and for people outside, for the devotees, the survey is for them a proof that what they believe is true. However, the court first has to consider whether the law allows it to hear this out at all. Secondly, Nabila, we've been talking about what was found in the survey, what was seen in the survey, but ultimately it is the judge, it is the court which will have to see what was actually seen there. They will have to go into the dimensions, they will have to go into the various aspects, none of which has been done at this stage, because this is at a very, very preliminary stage right now. We don't yet know which side the court's verdict is going to go. So as far as the survey is concerned, because of course, as you said, all the petitioners have been talking about the survey. They believe that because a survey was done, their belief in the Shivling has been borne out. But as a legal reporter, I would have to say that the court cannot look at the survey till it first decides on whether it can hear this matter at all. And that is
which is what brings me.
In a few minutes, we will find out what the court's process is.
Anisha, this is what leads to the question that how come a survey was asked for in that case if the court was not even going to be looking at it first? Shouldn't have been the maintainability of this petition been taken up before a survey was allowed to be carried out?
Well, Nabila, that is precisely why the Supreme Court sent the matter back. Now, if you see the timeline of this case, please remember that it is not that the case came to court and the court ordered survey and then suddenly the court decided that no, we are not going to do this first, we're going to do something else. Look at the timeline of this case. The petitions get filed in 2020. The court initially says that we'll hear the maintainability issue also, but in the meantime, they appoint a court commissioner and start looking at the survey issue. The Muslim side files an objection, says that I'm sorry, you cannot hear the matter and you first need to decide on my petition, that is the Muslim side's petition, on maintainability of the issue. The matter goes to High Court. High Court says, well, we will hear maintainability. In the meantime, let the survey happen, but the survey report needs to remain sealed. But when the survey issue comes up, the survey is happening. There are protests on the ground. There is a sense of unease on the ground, and the matter goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in May very clearly says that first the district court has to decide on the issue of maintainability. The court says that whatever survey etc. has to be done, whatever the report has come, the court can decide at later stage after hearing the maintainability issue. So what we are seeing here is effectively the superior courts getting into the issue of whether or not the survey should have been done, whether or not the survey could have been ordered. That is also something that was brought before the apex court as well. And the Supreme Court said, well, we are not saying don't have a survey, but we are saying that before you do anything, first you figure out if the court can hear this matter at all or not. And because the Supreme Court was very clear that we cannot look into the evidences adduced in the case, we cannot look into what is actually there on the ground. That is the job of the district court, which is why at this moment you and I are waiting for the district judge to look into all of the issues that have been brought before them, look at what was in existence.
Have the judges arrived? Have the judges arrived? Would you be able to tell us, have the judges arrived?
Bar of 1991. We do not have an update on that. We do know that the judge is expected to reach soon. So far, we have not gotten any confirmation on whether the judge has arrived. What we do know is that the lawyers and the petitioners are inside the courtroom. My colleague Kumar Abhishek is inside. But as I said a few minutes ago, reporters do not have access to the courtroom. In fact, reporters have been, there has been barricades put up and police personnel have been deployed about 20 meters away from the courtroom. The reporters are not even allowed to be in the same corridor as the door of the courtroom itself. So we will find out slowly of whatever is happening inside. As of right now, we're waiting for an update from my colleague Kumar Abhishek, who is inside the court premises. Back to you.
All right. Anisha, stay with us. I'm going to come back to you. But for now, Samarth also bringing us all the fervor right outside. Samarth, the celebration that we see is as if they've already declared that the verdict will be in favor of the Hindu side. That's more or less what we're seeing there. We know that they've been waiting for a day like this where finally their plea would be taken up. The plea was filed in 2020, but from what we hear is that the first petition for worship to be allowed at that Gyanvapi Mosque premises, the Shringar Gauri complex area, was in 1991. So we're looking at close to 3 decades that some of the priests there in Varanasi have been very earnestly trying to follow up and hope and pray that the gates will be finally thrown open for regular prayers to be carried out. For now, we know briefly, just during the time of Navratri, once in a year, people there are allowed to worship right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque along the area which they believe has been a temple. So now it used to happen once a year. Now they're hoping that this will be opened up for them permanently so that they can take care of the temple and of course be committed to their belief, and prayers will be allowed on a daily basis. That's a real worship and hope that many of those priests and followers, believers have. And as much as we understand the belief and their spirit in that Shringar Gauri complex, in the Shivling itself, the court, however, as per Anisha and what we hear from our legal experts, is not going to take in that kind of emotion or faith into account here. Today is only and only whether their plea is even maintainable in the court of law. Anisha is still with us. Anisha, over to you. Give us the latest developments. What's to look out for now?
Well, Nabila, as we've been waiting, we're still waiting for our colleagues Kumar Abhishek to give us an update of what is happening inside. Of course, as we've been discussing since the morning, today is a very important day of the verdict because people of Banaras have full faith that that premises is the abode of Bhagwan Shiv. A lot of people we've spoken to around here has said Baba Bholenath ko bahar aane dena chahiye, which basically is their way of saying that according to them there is a Shivling inside that premises and it should be allowed to come out to be worshipped by the people. However, even despite that public sentiment, and I'm showing you around here the kind of crowd that is here, police personnel have been deployed all over Varanasi. Security deployment has been made all over Varanasi to make sure that near the temple or near the court, no untoward incident happens. We have a lot of people who've come to watch the proceedings to get some idea of what is happening inside, but the court has been put on under a strict security cordon. nobody is being allowed to go inside the courtroom except the lawyers in the case and the litigants themselves. And around Varanasi, we see a lot of people talking about today's verdict. But what we also need to remember, Nabila, is that today's verdict is on a question of pure law. As far the information that we're getting from inside right now is that the judge is not yet sitting in the courtroom. We're still waiting for the judge to come out of his chambers to pronounce the verdict. But since this morning, what had happened is that the judge had adjourned all other matters and is only going to be pronouncing this verdict today. So we are expecting that the judge will come out to the courtroom very shortly and pronounce the verdict. But all across Varanasi, people are waiting with bated breath. Most of the Hindu devotees are feeling this sense of surety that this verdict will go in their favor. But we have to remember that this verdict has to be on the issue of law, on the basis of maintainability, because the 1991 petition that was filed, remember we've been talking about this, that these petitions today are fresh petitions filed by 5 women devotees in 2020 on which the maintainability issue has to come. Earlier the case, when it had come to court, the court had very clearly said, I'm sorry, we can't hear this matter, it is not maintainable. And that matter is still pending before the Allahabad High Court, even after more than 20-25 years. And so this is not a case that will see and quiet us anytime soon. This has been a social issue, this has been a sentimental issue, this has been a political issue in the country for decades. And today's verdict is only going to be the next step, because what we do know for sure is that whichever side loses today is going to go knocking on the doors of the Allahabad High Court, and whoever wins there is also going to face a Supreme Court proceeding, because whoever loses in the High Court will also go to the Supreme Court. So this is going to be a very crucial, very nuanced legal issue of what do the courts believe is the religious character of a place, and how does one define a religious character of a place. Back to you.
You know, as we see here, as much as Vishnu Jain is the counsel for those 5 women who have filed a petition asking for worship to be allowed. He says that they're going to be pushing for carbon dating to be carried out so that they can understand if really that is a Shivling or a Fugwara as claimed by the Muslim side. Give us an understanding on what exactly does he mean by saying carbon dating. They're going to be pushing for carbon dating at that site. Tell us more.
Well, Nabila, that is a demand that has been put in by one of the Hindu petitioners. They're saying that because they believe that what has been found in the survey is in fact a Shivling, they want a carbon dating done of that particular artifact that has been found, so that it can be seen how old that artifact really is. Because if as the Muslim petitioners are saying that this is a fountain and not a Shivling, but if it is a fountain, then it will be less than 400 years old. If it is not a fountain but a Shivling, as has been claimed by the Hindu side, then the carbon dating, the scientific experiment, the tests will show that it would have to be necessarily much older than Aurangzeb's times, that was the 1600s. However, once again, I will remind our viewers that the issue of carbon dating or survey or anything else is something that cannot be taken up till the judge pronounces his verdict. And Nabila, we're just getting some breaking news here. The judge has entered the courtroom. My colleague Kumar Abhishek, who's inside the courtroom, has just sent us this update just a few seconds ago. The judge has reached the courtroom. District and Sessions Judge A.K. Vishwesh is now inside the courtroom, and we should be getting some update about the verdict very, very soon. Back to you.
All right, that's the big news that Anisha has just brought for us. The judge has just arrived inside the courtroom. Anytime now, a verdict will be given out on the Gyanvapi Mosque issue. Of course, the Hindu side hoping that their plea asking for worship to be allowed at the Shringar Gauri complex will be acknowledged and upheld. This is the Hindu petition asking for worship to be allowed at the Shringar Gauri complex, which is aligned with the Gyanvapi Mosque. In fact, it is part of the Gyanvapi Mosque. If at all the court allows or upholds the plea, then it would mean the case will be taken up further on to what extent will the mosque premises will be opened up for Hindus to carry out their prayers. If at all this plea is acknowledged and permitted, then the next course of action will be decided. And that's what Anisha will also be able to clarify for us. In case, Anisha, today, that as much as the Hindu side expects it, if at all the court says that this plea could be entertained, it is permissible, it can be taken up, what next then? How is this case going to be furthered? It's going to be very complex. One can only understand for the courts as well to decide on how to divide that Gyanvapi mosque for the Hindu and the Muslim side, both to carry out their prayers.
Well, Nabila, let me just first clarify, even if the court says today that this issue is maintainable, it does not mean at all that immediately there will be a change at that disputed site. Please remember, this is a court case, this is a legal issue. If the court says they will agree to hear the petitioners, if they agree to hear the petitioners, then and only then will the court start looking at the evidence. The court will start looking at what is found in the survey report. The court will start looking at whatever documentation is there. Is there any documentation to prove what was there on the ground on 15th of August 1947? Is there any way to prove what was there on the ground in the 1600s? All of those documentations will have to be considered by the court if it agrees to hear this matter at all. So please remember, and our viewers also need to see that this is not the end of the entire controversy. Whatever happens today will set the timeline for the next line of argument, for the next step in the litigation itself. And as I said, whoever loses today will of course approach the High Court. So opening up of the temple for worship is something that will take a while longer. What we are getting information from our colleague Kumar Abhishek, however, is that the judge has sat in the court and he is reading out the verdict. There is pin drop silence inside the courtroom. That is what our reporter inside can hear. Kumar Abhishek, our correspondent, is inside the court premises, but since he cannot be inside the courtroom proper because there is a bar on reporters entering the courtroom, we are getting very slow updates on what is actually happening. What Kumar Abhishek is telling us is that the judge is reading his order, there is pin drop silence in the courtroom, and the reporter inside, Kumar Abhishek, is trying to get some information on what is actually happening inside. Back to you.
All right, the big news coming in that the judge has just about sat down, all set to give out his verdict. Anisha Mathur, Samarth Srivastava, both of our reporters there on ground, bringing us all the minute details. This is going to be a big verdict for both sides, the Hindu side and the Muslim side. The Muslim side questioning the maintainability of that plea filed by the Hindu side, citing the Places of Worship Act 1991, while the Hindu side claiming that this Shivling, which they have claimed to have found inside the Gyanvapi mosque, dates back much before the Mughal era, and therefore this cannot come under the Places of Worship Act. It's a case that should be taken up individually, and the court will have to see the kind of engraved details of Hindu culture and religion all writ large on those walls as proof enough to allow them for worship or open up the gates of the Gyanvapi mosque for the Hindu side as well to carry out their prayers and their pujas. Now this is of course a verdict that will have repercussions undoubtedly. Anisha, to give us a little more on that. Anisha, whichever side this verdict would swing to, it's inevitable that there will be some kind of commotion and repercussion. When I say commotion, the police, anticipating a law and order situation, have already deployed a huge blanket of the police force there, and all of them are armed, only to ensure that the verdict will not disturb any kind of harmony, communal harmony there. Tell us a little more on what the police is anticipating in case whichever side the verdict comes towards. What is the police's preparedness there?
Well, I'm going to ask my camera person to just pan around and show you exactly what the police is doing, Nabila. Here, outside the court premises, inside the court premises, Prem Mishra is just going to show you, there is a huge phalanx of police personnel Most of them have their lathis, the batons with them to ensure that nothing goes wrong. If anybody is making any sort of noise, if anybody is making if there is any crowd gathering, immediately they are being removed. Since this morning, the police commissioner, senior police officials have been on continuous patrol. In fact, the police commissioner himself has been on patrol. He is monitoring what is happening in the outside the court, inside the court. He's monitoring what is happening around the temple area. Crowds are not being allowed to gather anywhere. In fact, even reporters who are inside the court premises are being asked to shift further and further away from the courtroom proper, because the police is trying to make sure that no untoward incident happens. Even around the temple premises, people were not, this morning when we were there, people were not even being allowed to stop outside the gate to take selfies. Media persons were moved away. People who were stopping to talk to each other were being asked to leave the temple area and then continue with their chit-chat. So a very serious security cordon has been put in place to ensure that nothing goes wrong in Varanasi today. But it is very clear that either side, whichever side wins, whichever side loses, the petitioners in both cases will be going to the High Court. And we're still waiting for an update right now, Nabila, from our reporter inside. Kumar Abhishek is inside the court premises trying to get us the updates of what is happening inside. What we do know is that the judge came in, has started reading the verdict, but for now there is no update from the courtroom itself. There is pin drop silence that our reporter can hear from outside in the corridor. They cannot hear what is going on inside the courtroom. But as soon as the lawyers come out and give us information, our reporter on the ground, Kumar Abhishek, will be breaking that news for you. Back to you.
All right, Anisha, from what we see, that the judge all set to announce his verdict. In fact, this moments from now, we'll know whether at all the Hindu side will be allowed to worship at the Gyanvapi Mosque. Of course, that will be in due course, but is their plea maintainable in the court of law itself will be the first decision that will be taken up. The court's judgment and the verdict will be a huge lead and a stepping stone for what next. Once the court decides whether this plea from the Hindu side is maintainable or not, then the course of action will be decided by the same court on how to take this case forward. Anisha, for more on that. Anisha, we hear that the court is just about reading out the verdict. Do you see some commotion at all outside the court premises, or is the police very strict on not allowing anybody to gather right outside?
Well, Nabila, as I said, the police is trying to maintain law and order. I'm going to ask Prem Mishra to just pick up the camera and pan around and just show you what is actually happening around here. There is a massive police deployment. There is also a huge crowd of persons, onlookers who've gathered. Mishra, if you could just show them this side. Police personnel are now coming out. More and more police deployment is being put in place. As you can see, people are now coming outside of the court. We just have breaking news coming in. Hindu Paksh allowed, that is what the lawyers are telling us. Nabila, if you can just, if you can hear me, the petition has been found maintainable. The petition...
All right, Varanasi court admits Hindu side's plea. Huge development coming in as the district court now has established that the Hindus' plea is maintainable. The court admits the Hindu side's plea. A huge boost for the Hindu side. They were hoping that the court upholds their plea. The Varanasi court now admits the Hindu side's plea, which means in court it is maintainable. The court says the Hindu's side plea is indeed maintainable under the court of law. Varanasi district court announcing their verdict. The lawyer there of the petitioners.
आज कोर्ट ने हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट्स को मान लिया है. मुस्लिम पक्ष की एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी है. प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट की उनकी जो प्ली थी उसको खारिज कर दिया है. वक्फ एक्ट की प्ली को खारिज कर दिया है. कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सूट मेंटेनेबल है. अब इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 22/9 को होगी और एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी. इशूज बहुत बड़ी और क्या क्या और बात, आराम से मैं कहीं बहुत देखिए, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की मैं बता रहा हूँ, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की पिटीशन है ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 की, वो रिजेक्ट कर दी गई है। प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट का आर्गुमेंट रिजेक्ट कर दिया है, वक्फ एक्ट का रिजेक्ट कर दिया है। 22/9 आगे अब इस
माननीय न्यायालय ने उनकी आपत्ति को खारिज करके ये मामला पोषणीय है, मेंटेनेबल है, ये दावा चलेगा, ऐसा उन्होंने आज मुहर लगा दिया है।
तो अब आगे क्या होगा?
अब आगे की कार्रवाई हम लोग बिल्कुल अब आगे की हम लोग जो है तैयारी करेंगे। अब अगली तमाम जो है ट्रायल चलेगा, उस दावा हम लोगों का अब ये चलेगा न्यायालय में।
जी भाई, हम पूछ रहे हैं सर, दावे का जो सुनवाई होगी अब आगे, जो आप लोगों ने याचिका डाली है उसमें दावा जो डाला है उसके, और जो सर्वे की जो रिपोर्ट थी उसको कोर्ट कब देगी?
बिल्कुल सर्वे की रिपोर्ट, पूरा ट्रायल चलेगा। अब ये दावा हमारा मुकदमा चलेगा और आगे जो भी है सब प्रोसेस में चलेगा कोर्ट। इसलिए अब आगे तो अब समय बताएगा कि हम लोग को क्या करना है, क्या एक्शन लेना है।
क्या हुआ सुनवाई में? क्या हुआ
सुनवाई में?
आपने क्या बोला है, थोड़ा डिटेल में बताएंगे।
सुनवाई में
अगली तारीख आज कोर्ट ने हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट्स को मान लिया है। मुस्लिम पक्ष की एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी है। प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट की उनकी जो प्ली थी उसको खारिज कर दिया है। वक्फ एक्ट की प्ली को खारिज कर दिया है। कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सूट मेंटेनेबल है। अब इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 22/9 को होगी और एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी। इशूज और क्या क्या और आराम से मैं कहीं बहुत देखिए, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की मैं बता रहा हूँ, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की पिटीशन है ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 की, वो रिजेक्ट कर दी गई है। प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट का आर्गुमेंट रिजेक्ट कर दिया है, वक्फ एक्ट का रिजेक्ट कर दिया है। 22/9
चलो निकलो। महिलाएं कहाँ हैं? इधर आइए भाई, 1 मिनट आगे जाएंगे। अरे रुको यार, उधर ही आगे।
By both sides, but here all across the road here outside the district court of Varanasi, the chants of Har Har Mahadev and the sounds of celebration.
मैंने बोला था इतिहास रचेंगे, आज हम लोगों ने इतिहास रच लिया है। मुस्लिम पक्ष को क्या कहना चाहिए? वो लगातार दावा करते रहे, करने दीजिए, उनके पास कुछ है नहीं। मंजू जी, कितनी बड़ी खुशी है आप लोगों की। देखिए यहाँ पर क्या कहना चाहेंगे? हम उन लोग का 7-11 खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में मुकदमा हम लोग जीत गए। अब हम लोग की मुकदमा चलेगा। बहुत खुशी है, आज हम लोग ने इतिहास रच दिया है। अंदर जज साहब ने फैसला सुनाया है, उसके बाद उन लोग का खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में आ गया है।
देखिए, आप तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर तमाम जो लोग हैं वो आप करते हुए दिखाई पड़ेंगे। इसके साथ साथ देखिए, सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि यहाँ फैसला दिखाई पड़ेंगे।
हिंदू पक्ष में आया है, सबको खुशी है। आज काशी बम बम बोल रहा है। अंदर जज अपना पूरा सुनवाई की है।
चर्चा में आप आए न्यायालय में, सभी लोग बैठे, बैठने के बाद
हम हर्षित हैं, हिंदू समाज हर्षित है, कि समाज सनातन धर्म हर्षित है और पूरा उत्तर प्रदेश हर्षित है। आगे कार्बन डेटिंग की मांग होगी। मंदिर के जितने भी साक्ष्य हैं, जितने भी दीवार जिसमें से बाबा शिवलिंग, उनको दीवार तोड़ करके बिल्कुल साज ताकि नंदी और बाबा बात कर सकें।
आपकी एक मांग थी कि दीवार तोड़ी जाए, उसको लेकर कोई आगे आप लोग
बिल्कुल 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 हम लोग याचिका दायर की हैं, उसमें आगे सुनवाई होगी। और वही
आज कोर्ट ने आगे कहा क्या है अपने जजमेंट?
आगे यह कह कि 1990 वर्ष एक्ट यहाँ लागू नहीं होता, वक्फ बोर्ड लागू नहीं होता, लिहाजा मंदिर समर्थकों की विजय हुई।
इसके आगे
हाँ, ज्ञानवापी जो है मसाजिद के लोग बहुत देर तक मौजूद नहीं थे और जैसे ही माननीय जिला जज आए, हमें एक बार लगा कि आखिर क्या इसका बहिष्कार तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, लेकिन नहीं, जैसे ही जिला जज महोदय आए, मात्र एक अधिवक्ता मसाजिद के आए, जिससे वह कोरम पूरा हो जा रहा है, इसलिए उनको पूरा माना जाएगा।
क्या आर्गुमेंट चलेगी
आगे क्या रहेगा?
पर कुछ आला जाने कब
आगे का क्या रहेगा?
आगे कार्बन
डेटिंग का बात कर
अयोध्या
याचिका है उस पर सुनवाई के लिए बोला है कोर्ट ने।
हाँ बिल्कुल ये हुआ है कि 22 तारीख डेट दी गई है, जो कार्बन डेटिंग की मांगे। श्री राम जन्मभूमि में आंदोलन में भी हम लोग थे, इसलिए हमको अच्छी तरह मालूम है कार्बन डेटिंग क्या होती है। जो है
अरे बाबा
आगे का क्या रहेगा?
आपकी ये जीत है, कितनी बड़ी जीत?
बहुत बड़ी जीत है। सोच लीजिए 1991 से लोग लड़ रहे थे, आज हम लोग की जीत हुई है, बहुत बड़ी जीत हुई है। आज हम लोगों ने इतिहास रच दिया।
आप लोगों ने आज इतिहास रचा है। और भी कई महिला याची हैं। आप इधर आइए, इधर आइए मैडम, मैडम इधर आइए, मैडम इधर, एक मिनट। तो चित्रा, मैं आपको बताऊं कि ये बताइए क्या रहा अंडर कोर्ट?
बहुत अच्छा। आज हम लोग बहुत खुश हैं। आज हम लोगों को खुशी आप लोग के हम लोग के चेहरे से दिख रही है। आज पूरा भारत खुश है। आज हम भारत को यही एक सारे ब्रह्मांड में वो करना चाहते हैं। सबसे विनती है, जितने हमारे हिंदू भाई बहन हैं, आज अपने घरों में घी के दीपक जलाए, शंख नगाड़े बजाए और हर हर महादेव का नारा लगाए। हर हर महादेव, बोलो शिवराम हरी माता की जय। बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है बाबा, रहा न कोई बाकी। कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोलना भैरो बाबा, रहा न कोई बाकी। बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है।
तो चित्रा, आपने सुना, जो महिलाएं हैं, जो याचिकाकर्ता महिलाएं हैं, वो इस वक्त खुशी से एक तरीके से नाच रही हैं, क्योंकि इनकी याचिका पर ये तमाम फैसले आए। ये फैसला आया और ये बहुत बड़ी बात कि 1991 का जो वर्शिप एक्ट है वो इसे कवर नहीं करता। मुझे लगता है माइलस्टोन है फैसला इस लिहाज से, क्योंकि ये जब 1991 वर्शिप एक्ट बना था तो उसके बाद माना जा रहा था कि राम जन्मभूमि को छोड़कर तमाम जो दूसरे धर्म स्थल हैं, अब वो कवर नहीं, वो अब किसी भी सूरत में राम जन्मभूमि की तरह नहीं हो पाएंगे। लेकिन आज काशी में जिस तरीके से इसे मेंटेनेबल कह दिया है कोर्ट ने, यानी कि अब ये मामला आगे प्रोसीड करेगा।
गौरी माता की
We see all the festive celebrations there by the Hindu side as they're overwhelmed with the court's verdict. The district court in Varanasi now upholds the Hindu side plea, saying the Hindu side plea is permissible under court of law. A huge development there undoubtedly for the Hindu side. There was the Muslim side had challenged the Hindu side's plea, saying that this plea is not maintainable in the first place. But the court now has decided that it will be taken forward. Vishnu Jain, the counsel for those petitioners from the Hindu side, speaks soon as he steps out of court. Listening.
आज कोर्ट ने हमारे आज कोर्ट ने हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट्स को मान लिया है, मुस्लिम पक्ष की एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी है, प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट की उनकी जो प्ली थी उसको खारिज कर दिया है, वक्फ एक्ट की प्ली को खारिज कर दिया है। कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सूट मेंटेनेबल है। अब इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 22/9 को होगी और एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी। इशूज और क्या क्या और कोर्ट ने क्या कोई बात, आराम से मैं कहीं बहुत देखिए, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की मैं बता रहा हूँ, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की पेटिशन है ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 की, वो रिजेक्ट कर दी गई है। प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट का आर्गुमेंट रिजेक्ट कर दिया है, वक्फ एक्ट का रिजेक्ट कर दिया है। 22/9 आगे अब इस
to Anisha Mathur there, who's right on ground. Anisha, I really want to give us a sense of the next course of action. Give us an understanding. And now that the court has upheld the Hindu side's plea, calling it maintainable under the court of law, what next now? Which court will be taking this matter up further? And when will the survey seal be opened up and reviewed?
Well, as of right now, Nabila, there is a sense of celebration around here. If you can see, my camera person will just pan around and show you chants of Har Har Mahadev, Bhole Baba ki Jai, and Shringar Gauri, chants for Shringar Gauri Devi. All of those are all over this.
स्वागत है हरिशंकर जैन जी। ये बताइए कि आज का जो ये फैसला आया है, कैसे क्या आया है, क्या आप लोगों ने सुना?
आज का फैसला ऐतिहासिक है। हिंदू समाज और हिंदुओं के लिए आने वाले वर्षों तक ये फैसला याद किया जाएगा। और इस फैसले से जो हिंदू धर्म में जो हिंदुओं की जो संपत्तियां कब्जा कर ली गई थी, मंदिर तोड़ दिए गए थे, उनको वापस लेने का हमको मौका मिलेगा और हम आगे बढ़ेंगे।
जज साहब ने अपने फैसले में कहा क्या है?
कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट जो भी दिए थे सबको माना है। प्लेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट अप्लाई नहीं करता, वक्फ एक्ट से बाधित नहीं है, और मुस्लिम पर जो कहा है कि आप 22 तारीख तक रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट फाइल कर दीजिए, और जितने फर्जी दावे थे उनके सब रिजेक्ट कर दिए हैं, और ये साबित हो गया है कि वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी नहीं है।
तो इसका अर्थ क्या निकाला जाए? 22 तारीख को क्या हो?
अब ये सूट आगे बढ़ेगा, अब सूट आगे बढ़ेगा और गवाही होगी और अपना सूट साबित करेंगे।
तो कितनी बड़ी जीत है आपके लिए?
बहुत बड़ी जीत है, इतनी बड़ी जीत है कि आज बाबा भोलेनाथ की कृपा से सब कुछ जो हमने कहा था सब मान लिया गया। और मैं समझता हूँ बाबा भोलेनाथ का भव्य मंदिर बनने का मार्ग प्रशस्त हो गया है।
तो ये आखिरी सवाल के तौर पर मुस्लिम्स के लिए क्या बचा अब इससे? मुसलमान
इस आदेश के खिलाफ हाई कोर्ट अपील में जा सकते हैं, उसका सुप्रीम कोर्ट जा सकते हैं, रास्ता खुला है।
और वो हाई कोर्ट जाएंगे तो हम भी हाई कोर्ट जाएंगे और इस ऑर्डर को स्टे नहीं होने देंगे।
तो आप आइए बाहर। तो हरिशंकर जैन थे ये। चित्रा, आपने सुना हरिशंकर जैन ने साफ साफ ये कहा है कि 1991 का जो वर्शिप एक्ट है ये इस पर लागू नहीं होता, ये ऐतिहासिक फैसला है। इसके साथ कई और ऐसे जो धर्म स्थल हैं उसके भी रास्ते खुलेंगे। तो कुल मिलाकर एक बहुत बड़ा फैसला है। और ये भी कहा है कि जो भी हिंदू पक्ष ने कहा था, दलीलें दी हैं, कोर्ट ने ये पूरा का पूरा माना है। यानी कि ये बात हरिशंकर जैन बाहर निकलकर उन्होंने सबसे पहले आज तक को यही बात बताई है। हमारे साथ नित्यानंद राय हैं। आपको भी पता चला कि क्या है, किस तरीके की जीत है?
देखिए, बहुत बड़ा टर्निंग पॉइंट है। जो मुकदमा प्रोसीड होने, जो ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 में जो कह रहे थे कि वर्शिप एक्ट से बाधित है, उसको कोर्ट ने खारिज कर दिया और माना है कि मुकदमा सुनवाई योग्य है, मुकदमा चलेगा। तो ये बहुत बड़ी विजय है और टर्निंग पॉइंट है। अब आगे का मार्ग प्रशस्त होगा, रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट आएंगे, इशू फ्रेम मतलब वाद बिंदु तय होंगे कि ये मुकदमे में क्या अदालत को तय करना है, और अल्टीमेटली साक्ष्य के बाद अदालत को फैसला आएगा। और हमको हिंदू पक्ष को जो है श्रृंगार गौरी में जो पूजा अर्चना का अधिकार जो 1992 से हमको रोक दिया गया था, उसका मार्ग प्रशस्त होगा।
आप मदन मोहन यादव जी हैं, आप लगातार लगे रहे इस मामले में, आप बताइए कि कितनी बड़ी जीत आप लोगों के लिए?
ये ऐतिहासिक जीत है। इससे हिंदुओं के धार्मिक और सांस्कृतिक न्याय का मार्ग पूरा प्रशस्त हो रहा है और ये ऐतिहासिक निर्णय है जिसको हमने तहे दिल से माननीय न्यायालय का शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। और ये हमारे पक्ष में माननीय न्यायालय का आया हुआ निर्णय आज अत्यंत है, काशी बम बम बोल रहा है।
तो लगातार अब ये देखिए कुछ महिलाएं हैं, वकील नारेबाजी कर रहे हैं, महिलाएं जो हैं, जो याची हैं, वो इस वक्त नाचती गाती हुई दिखाई दे रही हैं। तो हम कोशिश करेंगे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा तस्वीरों को आप तक पहुंचा सकें, लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात ये कि जैसा कि हिंदू पक्ष का दावा था उसके पूरे दावों पर मोहर लगी है, यानी कि एक बड़ी जीत है चित्रा। और 1991 का जो वर्शिप एक्ट है, अगर इस मामले में खारिज हुआ है तो आप इस बात को मान लीजिए कि एक बहुत बड़ा फैसला आया है और कई धर्मस्थलों पर हो सकता है कि आगे भी इस फैसले को कोर्ट किया जाए। चित्रा,
मस्जिद के केस के सिलसिले में जो कुछ भी ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट के सिलसिले में कहा था, तो उसके बाद ये उम्मीद का सबने इजहार किया था कि अब कोई भी मंदिर मस्जिद मुद्दा अपने मुल्क में नहीं उठेगा, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी इस तरीके के मुद्दे सामने आ रहे हैं। बहरहाल जो कुछ भी आज हुआ है उसको अपने लीगल टीम स्टडी करेगी और उसके बाद ही कोई अपनी राय रखी जा सकती है।
कहा है कोर्ट ने कि ये मामला सुनने योग्य है। मुस्लिम पक्ष कहता रहा कि 1991 वर्शिप एक्ट का भी हवाला दिया गया, लेकिन आज जो फैसले में ये कोर्ट ने कहा कि योग्य है और इसमें अगली तारीख नवंबर में भी दी गई है।
यानी जो भी अगली तारीख दी गई है, जाहिर सी बात है दोनों पार्टीज अपनी अपनी बातें रखेंगी और जो मस्जिद की साइड है वो भी अपनी दलीलें पूरी ताकत के साथ रखेंगे। और आज से नहीं बल्कि सैकड़ों सालों से मस्जिद में नमाज होती आ रही है, वहाँ पे मस्जिद कायम है और लोग वहाँ नमाज अदा कर रहे हैं और आज भी नमाज अदा हो रही है, इसमें कोई भी शक व शुबहे की गुंजाइश नहीं है। तो लिहाजा वहाँ पे नमाज अदा की जाती रहेगी। उस सिलसिले में हम समझते हैं कि कोर्ट ने ऐसी कोई बात नहीं कही है जिससे कि कोई नमाज अदा करने पे सवालिया निशान लग रहा हो। लेकिन बहरहाल जो भी ये केस चल रहा है, इस केस को अदालत में ही पूरी ताकत के साथ लड़ा जाएगा। और लेकिन मेरी सबसे यही एक बार फिर से अपील है कि सब लोग हर तरीके से अमन अमान कायम रखें और ये एक लीगल मसला है, जाहिर सी बात इसका फ़ैसला अदालत में ही होना है।
एक इंग्लिश में Monana, today Gyanvapi Shringar Gauri dispute case was heard in the Banaras court, single bench Banaras court, where the court has said that the case holds the maintainability and it should be heard furthermore.
You all know that we all respect whatever honorable court says, and in this regard, after the final judgment of the Supreme Court, in which the honorable Supreme Court has very clearly said that the Places of Worship Act 1991 will continue. So after this judgment, we were hopeful that now no mandir or masjid legal battle will be raised. But again, this legal battle has been started, and whatever the honorable court has said, that our legal team
all right,
will study.
I'm going to quickly cut across to Sita, who is one of the 5 petitioners asking for worship to be allowed at the Gyanvapi complex. Sita, मुबारक हो, आपके पक्ष में यहाँ पर कोर्ट ने वर्डिक्ट दिया है कि आपका पेटिशन मेंटेनेबल है अंडर लॉ। आप इसके आगे क्या करने वाले हो आप? सीता जी, आपकी आवाज, मेरी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है?
जी, मुझे आपकी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है।
हाँ बोलिए सीता जी, आपके पक्ष में ये वर्डिक्ट आया है, आपके पक्ष में।
मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है, हम लोग को पूरा विश्वास था कि फैसला हम लोग के, क्योंकि हम लोग सत्य के साथ थे और सत्य इसी हुए, तो पूरा विश्वास था कि फैसला हम लोग के पक्ष में ही आएगा। इसकी बहुत बहुत ज्यादा खुशी हम लोगों को।
अब इसके आगे क्या करने वाले हो आप?
अब इसके आगे हम लोग का यही आज का हम लोग का रहेगा कि हम लोग जो शिवलिंग जो निकले हैं वहाँ पे हम लोग जला उस ऐसे ही रहेगा और कि जो वो ताकि शिवलिंग है वो पूरा सामने आ सके, आधा जो कि गौरी का आती है उधर भी सामने आ जाएगा। तो हम लोग का प्रयास यही रहेगा कि वहाँ पे जो
जी वहाँ पर अभी के लिए कोई पूजा अलाउ होगी नहीं, मगर ये शायद लंबा चलेगा। क्या आप तैयार हो सीता जी? ये लीगल बैटल थोड़ा लंबा ही चलेगा। All right, we seem to be having a connection error there. Sita Sahu is one of the petitioners. I'm going to quickly cut across to Jitendra, who's... All right, Jitendra and Saraswati, both of them petitioners on the phone line with us. Jitendra ji, आपके पक्ष में ये जो verdict आया है, आप अब क्या करने वाले हो और आपकी क्या इच्छा है? जो अगर टॉप कोर्ट में ये मैटर आएगा तो बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स होगा।
अभी तो ये मुकदमे की प्रारंभिक स्थिति है और कोर्ट का निर्णय स्वीकार है। प्रसन्नता इस बात की है कि कोर्ट ने इसे सुनवाई के योग्य माना है। सुनवाई अब शुरू होगी, तथ्यों की, सबूतों की जांच परख अब शुरू होगी, तर्कों और कुतर्कों का संघर्ष अब शुरू होगा और हमारा दृढ़ विश्वास है कि स्वतंत्रता के 75वें अर्थात अमृत महोत्सव वर्ष में काशी ज्ञानवापी ये भी औरंगजेब के गुलामी का एक प्रतीक चिन्ह यह भी नष्ट होगा और हम न्यायालय से इस मुकदमे को जीतेंगे।
जी जितेंद्र जी, अभी के लिए जो पूजा है वहाँ पर अलाउ नहीं की जाएगी। ये तो लंबा चलेगा ये केस, लीगल बैटल है जो शायद 2-3 महीने या 1 साल और उससे ज्यादा भी हो सकता है।
हेलो,
हाँ जी, ये लीगल बैटल लंबा चलेगा।
वर्ष में 5 बार अलाउ है। मांग इतनी सी है कि 365 दिन अलाउ कर दिया जाए। तो ये तो राज्य सरकार के अधीन विषय है, ये अलाउ किया जा सकता है। प्रश्न यह नहीं है, श्रृंगार गौरी के बहाने काशी ज्ञानवापी का मुकदमा खुला, ये आवश्यक था।
जी जितेंद्र जी, well, it seems like a connection error, but of course there's that much commotion happening right outside the Gyanvapi complex and the district court of Varanasi there. People have come in large numbers to celebrate. This seems like a stepping stone for the Hindu side to establish that indeed there has been a temple there which was raised by the Mughal Empire back then. They want to reclaim it, and that's the fight that the Hindu side has been fighting. The first ever petition that was filed in court for reclaiming this Gyanvapi, the Gauri-Shringar complex, was in 1991. We're talking about 3 decades later, in 2020, yet again, the Hindu side, 5 women came out they came up together to file a petition in court asking for worship to be allowed at the same Gauri-Shringar complex, which is aligned and attached to the Gyanvapi Mosque. And now, after the Muslim side had objected to the Hindu side's plea, saying that the plea itself is not maintainable under the court of law because it defies the Places of Worship Act, the district court of Varanasi now has come out to uphold the Hindu side's plea, saying it's indeed maintainable under the court of law. This will be taken up next in court. Possibly a long-drawn battle, legal battle will ensue, considering that this is it's a place of religious worship, and the Muslim side has been constantly claiming that the mosque is clearly protected under the Places of Worship Act, which says very clearly that any religious structure that stood post-independence in 1947 cannot be touched and is and of course will be protected under the Places of Worship Act. Ayodhya was one such verdict that was kept aside and said that this is a one-off case, but nothing else will have the same conclusion. Anisha Mathur, who joins us for more on that. Anisha, we saw what happened with Ayodhya. Despite the Places of Worship Act, the Ayodhya judgment was given. An order to build the Ram Temple was given. The Ram Temple is now constructed in full swing. But that was a one-off verdict. And that too, when the court had pronounced that verdict, then it said very clearly that this is a one-off case only. The Places of Worship cannot be defied henceforth. Here we are looking at another case of the Gyanvapi now, where the district court has upheld the Hindu plea, saying that this is indeed maintainable under the court of law. Now it's going to be a long-drawn battle. There will be a huge legal repercussions and the nuances for the court to actually detail. Take us through what's the next course of action going forward.
Well, Nabila, first of all, let's look at the legal nuances that are involved in all of these matters. Ayodhya was, in fact, a one-off case because the Ayodhya dispute was specifically given an exemption from the Places of Worship Act. So the Ayodhya case being heard had absolutely nothing to do with the Places of Worship Act. For any other dispute, the Places of Worship Act would come into play. But here, it is a very interesting legal nuance that the court has looked into, that the petition is not for ownership of the temple, that the petition is for right to worship and the right of the devotee to go and offer prayers, which is why it does not take away from the religious character of the premises, and therefore it is maintainable. So this is a very interesting legal nuance, Nabila, that the court has carved out for the Shringar Gauri temple case, where the court is saying that because the devotees are not saying break down the mosque or build a temple, they are only saying let us worship at the temple and the murtis that are already there. That is why this petition is maintainable. So it is a very interesting legal nuance. We are also being joined by Advocate Madan, who was one of the lawyers for the Hindu petitioners. Sir, this entire issue has come. The Muslim side is saying they will go to the High Court and file an appeal. What is the next step now? Court ने तो कह दिया 22 तारीख को अगली सुनवाई होगी. Muslim पक्षकार कह रहे हैं कि जैसे
I'm going to quickly cut across Hari Shankar Jain, the petitioner's lawyer there, who has fought in court. Mr. Jain, this verdict has come in your favor. It seems like there's a long-drawn legal battle for you now to prove that this indeed was a temple and it should be allowed to for Hindus to be worshipping at that spot. What is your next course of action? How would you look at this verdict today?
All over India, Muslims have created narrative, partially that if Places of Worship is applicable and should be barred. Whereas this case is not barred by Places of Worship Act, because according to plaintiff, Hindu puja was going on up to 1993, when they were ousted from the doing puja, and even not only that, the pujari was also ousted. The khana from Vyasji was also ousted. Court has noted all these pleadings, and court has said, according to pleadings made in the plaint, the suit cannot be rejected, and Places of Worship Act is not applicable. Court has also found the second issue, and that it can't be decided by tribunal. It is work or not, that is another issue. But even if work, that is not applicable to non-Muslims, and it is maintainable in civil court. The court has accepted our both arguments and has held that the application is not maintainable and that application has been rejected. And they have been directed to file written statement by 22nd of this month. Yes.
Right. We hear, Mr. Jain, that you're going to be pushing for carbon dating and to try and understand the scientific way of establishing whether this was a Shivling.
Right. I will move proper application for that, and that will be disposed of. Now further, the question is that is suit will proceed and will heard according to law. Suit is not barred. The cloud created and the suit that has now vanished.
Well, this is, Mr. Jain, just the start of a long-drawn legal battle. Are you ready for this whole legal fight that may go on for a few months or even a year? Also, a quick word, Mr. Jain. This is about a religious place of worship. So, what are you looking for? Do you want that mosque to be the place to be divided and made open for Hindus also to be worshipping?
Clear.
सर, do you want? नहीं, मैं ये पूछ रही हूँ कि ये mosque का complex है. आपको क्या? What is your request before court that you want this mosque to be, divided for the Hindus to be worshipping on one side and the prayers to be carrying out from the Muslim side on the other?
You are asking that what will happen in future?
No, yeah, I'm saying that since this is a religious issue, it is very sensitive. What is your request in court? That you want the place to be opened up for worship for Hindus? You want the mosque to be divided into two areas?
No question division. We want that Hindu puja should go on, and this mosque should be removed from that place. It is not a mosque.
You want the mosque to be removed?
Occupied. Hindu mandir temple was illegally occupied.
So you want the mosque to be fully removed?
आप अपना गाड़ी नंबर क्या है?
14
शंकर जैन जी, if you can hear me, आपको वहाँ पर मॉस्क चाहिए ही नहीं?
जरा माफ कीजिएगा, आवाज साफ नहीं आ रही है।
नहीं, आपको आ रही है आवाज अब?
आ जाएगा। छोटा बटन मुझे स्टार्ट में, इसमें गाड़ी में जा रहा हूँ ना, तो सुनाई नहीं पड़ रहा है।
नो प्रॉब्लम। शंकर जैन जी, मैं ये पूछ रही थी कि आपको वहाँ पर मॉस्क चाहिए ही नहीं? आप बोल रहे हो कि मॉस्क बंदी होना चाहिए वहाँ पर?
वहाँ पर केवल मंदिर हो सकती है, मस्जिद नाम की कोई चीज हो ही नहीं सकती है। जल्दी जोड़ो ना आप, वहाँ मस्जिद की कीमत पर नहीं हो सकती।
मगर इतने सालों से मस्जिद वहाँ पर खड़ा है, क्या आप ये अपील नहीं करोगे कि आधा मॉस्क रहने दो एक साइड और एक साइड मंदिर बनने दो?
मैं बता रहा हूँ, अगर हमारी लाखों साल से खड़ी मंदिर गिराई जा सकती है, तो 200-300 साल से खड़ी तथाकथित मस्जिद को नहीं हटाई जा सकती।
जी, वहाँ पर वो तब तो मुगल एरा था ना, यहाँ पर अभी लॉ एंड ऑर्डर का एरा है, अब मुगल एरा नहीं है ये टाइम।
क्या मुसलमानों से डर जाए कि लॉ एंड ऑर्डर क्या होता है? पहला कब्जा कर ले हमारे घर में आकर, उसके बाद लॉ एंड ऑर्डर प्रॉब्लम है, हम आफत करेंगे। अगर ये तो कोई बात ही नहीं हुई। संविधान के अंदर संविधान अभी भाई चलता है, देश संविधान चलेगा तो देश संविधान चलेगा, ऐसे ही चलेगा कि आप दरबार पे और लोग डर जाए और लीगल जो हमारे लीगल राइट उसको ले। दैट कांट बी।
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Shankar Jain, for joining us on that. From what we hear, the legal counsel of the Hindu side saying that we don't want a mosque there at all, that entire Gyanvapi mosque must be converted into a temple. That's the request made by the council. Let me cut across to all those reactions though, coming in on a big day, a big win for the Hindu side as the court upholds the plea, calling it maintainable in law.
केवल मामले को लंबा करने और देर कराने के लिए ये एप्लीकेशन लगाई गई थी। वह एप्लीकेशन निरस्त कर दी गई है। मुकदमा गुण दोष के आधार पर सुना जाएगा। हम आशान्वित हैं कि इस मामले में हम जीतेंगे। मैं यह भी समझता हूं कि यह एक धार्मिक आध्यात्मिक मामला है और इसलिए इसको हार जीत का मुद्दा न मानते हुए शांतता से स्वीकार करना चाहिए और भगवान भोलेनाथ का हम धन्यवाद करें, उनका आशीर्वाद हम पर बना रहे।
कोई बाकी कि बम बम बोल रहा है, काशी बम बम बोल रहा है।
All right, now the Hindu side, their plea has been upheld, which means this will be taken up in court now. The survey that was carried out by the ASI, that survey will also be looked into thoroughly. But the next course of action would be that the court will try to establish whether or not there is Hindu significance in that mosque, whether that was indeed a Shivling or was it a Fogwara as claimed by the Muslim side. And the survey report by the ASI will be thoroughly looked into. As of now, it's sealed, but now post the court's verdict, the district court upholding that the Hindu side's plea is indeed maintainable under the court of law. The survey report will now be looked into. That will be the next course of action. But will the Muslim side, the Anjuman-e-Islamia, will they take this up to a high court? Will they reach the Allahabad High Court for this matter to be taken up to challenge this district court's verdict? That remains to be seen. But for now, it appears it's a big win for the Hindu side. The Hindu side asking for that area which is aligned with the Gyanvapi Mosque to be opened up for Hindus to worship, as they believe that this is their place of belief. It's where the Shivling has been found, and that place, that area should be cordoned off for the Muslims and opened up for the Hindus. This is the demand made by the Hindu side. We see much of the rejoicing and celebration right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque with the Hindu side celebrating the verdict. They call this a big win, a stepping stone to reclaim the lost piece of history. This is the latest verdict that has come into effect with the Gyanvapi verdict now out. Let me cut across to Anisha there. She has the order copy of this case, of the verdict. Anisha, over to you. Anisha, tell us what you have with the Akshita. Akshita joining us. Akshita, give us a sense of the order copy that you have.
Let's play this out for our viewers. This is the first copy of the order that we've accessed here on India Today. I'll just read out for you what are the highlights of what's been said here in this entire order copy. Now, we've come to the last page in which the most important part is mentioned. It says, it's clear that no bar has been imposed by the Act, referring to, in fact, the Place of Worship Act, saying regarding a suit claiming right to worship idols installed in the endowment within the premises of the temple or outside. Therefore, the defendant failed to prove that the suit of the plaintiffs is barred. Now, besides that, the other important point that I'd like to highlight here is that the judge has said here, I have come to the conclusion that the suit of the plaintiffs is not barred by the Places of Worship Act, by the Waqf Act and the UP Kashi Vishwanath Temple Act, and the application filed by the defendant is liable to be dismissed. And with this, it was clear that the Hindu petition side stands here. The maintainability of that has been upheld. Let me again take you through what's been mentioned in the previous parts of the order, which we've gone through in detail here on India Today. There is a mention about all of the aspects that need to be discussed, particularly what came up in the course of these arguments. The last two paras here, the first one says from the perusal of above mentioned provisions, it's clear that no bar has been imposed regarding a suit claiming right to worship idols installed within the premises of the temple. Therefore, defendant failed to prove that the suit of the plaintiffs is barred. In view of these discussions and analysis, I've come to the conclusion that the suit of the plaintiffs is not barred by the Place of Worship Act. This sentence right here is the most crucial bit, and that's what has been deemed as a victory by the Hindu side. When the judges said, I've come to the conclusion that the suit of the plaintiffs is not barred by the Places of the Worship Act of 1991, the Waqf Act, and the UP Sri Kashi Vishwanath Temple Act of 1983. And thereby, the judges said the application filed by the defendant is liable to be dismissed. The defendant here being the Muslim side. So this is the order copy that you see here on your screens right now. Very, very important. Last two paragraphs clearly giving you a sense of which way this went. Back to you in the studio.
All right. So at this point, for what we see, that the court has upheld the Hindu side plea, very clearly stating that the Hindu side plea is permissible and maintainable under the court of law. So now the next course would be for the Hindu side to, of course, establish and prove that this indeed was a mosque that once stood, and that's where the Gyanvapi survey report, the ASI survey report, which is now tabled and sealed, will come into effect. That will be entirely scrutinized. The survey report will be scrutinized, and India Today has had a copy of that survey report as well, that clearly speaks of how that particular fountain area or the area where Wazu was happening all this while, which the Muslim side claim is just a fountain, is a Shivling. This is what the survey report has established, that was indeed a Shivling.
सुना जाएगा हमारे साथ बात करने के लिए उत्तर प्रदेश के उप मुख्यमंत्री ब्रजेश पाठक हैं। किस तरीके से देख रहे, एक जीत लग रही है आपको जिस तरीके से पूरा मामला चला?
हम माननीय न्यायालय के निर्णय का स्वागत करते हैं और बहुत अच्छा निर्णय है, और मुझे लगता है कि इससे देश के लोगों की जो भावनाएं थी उनको बहुत आदर मिला है, सम्मान मिला है, सभी लोग बहुत खुश हैं। अब माननीय न्यायालय का जो भी निर्णय होगा हम लोग उसको पालन करेंगे।
22 सितंबर को आगे मामला सुना जाएगा। पूछनीता पर तो पूरी बात हो गई, लेकिन अब जो सर्वे में चीजें सामने आई थी, क्या मंदिर में क्या था,
ये सब माननीय न्यायालय का काम है, लेकिन हमारा दायित्व ये है कि उत्तर प्रदेश में हम कानून के राज को स्थापित रखें, किसी को भी डिस्टर्ब करने की अनुमति न हो, और हर तरह से हम लोग तैयार रहें। सभी पुलिस प्रशासन को, अधिकारियों को सतर्कता बरतते हुए आगे बढ़ने के लिए कहा गया है। हर स्थिति में उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज सुदृढ़ रूप से स्थापित रहेगा।
आगे चूंकि सुनवाई चलेगी, आपको लगता है कि इस मामले को जल्द से जल्द सुन के निपटान किया जाए?
अब ये माननीय न्यायालय का विषय है, लेकिन हम लोग अपने पक्ष में सबको कहते हैं कि उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज कायम रहेगा।
इस तरीके से सवाल उठ रहे थे सर्वेक्षण को लेकर के भी, सरकार भी चूंकि इसमें एक भूमिका में है, आपको लगता है कि वो चीजों पे जवाब आज मिले हैं जिस तरीके से?
देखिए, जिस ढंग से ये फैसला है, लोग बहुत खुश हैं प्रदेश के, और अब माननीय न्यायालय के आगे वाले निर्णय का भी हम लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं। जो भी निर्णय आएगा उसका हम पालन करेंगे।
साफ तौर पर उत्तर प्रदेश के उप मुख्यमंत्री ने सीधे तौर पर इस फैसले का स्वागत किया।
All right, this is a big verdict undoubtedly for the Hindu side. The court has now established that the Hindu side's plea is maintainable under the court of law. This has resulted in huge joyous celebrations right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque premises in Varanasi. Of course, this has come as a big boost to those petitioners who are now hell-bent on getting the survey report opened up with immediate effect. In fact, the district judge, A.K. Vishwesha, has said that the petition filed by the women that led to the survey inside the mosque will be continued to heard. It will be heard in court. It will be taken up in court as it is permissible. The court has agreed to hear the petition by 5 of the Hindu women seeking the right to worship inside the Gyanvapi Mosque that's located right next to the famous Kashi Vishwanath temple. The district court said the petition by the women that's led to the survey inside the mosque will now be continued to be heard in court. It is indeed maintainable. This was the contention, whether or not the plea is maintainable in court or not, which the court has settled the dust on, saying it is maintainable. Let me cut across to Anisha, who's been tracking those developments. Anisha, over to you. You have a guest joining you right there. Please give us an insight into what the Hindu side will do henceforth.
Well, actually, Nabila, the guest I have with me is Advocate Nityanand Rai, who's just been reading the judgment of the court, the Varanasi court. It is a very clear judgment which says that the reason why the petition of the Hindu devotees has been upheld is because the worship at the temple was going on till 1993 and that the right to worship has been called for. What Nityanand ji, agar aapse hum bhi baat karna cha rahe the, what the court has said is that the temple has been defined as the Kashi Vishwanath temple situated at the site. Now the hearing will happen on the 22nd of September. The court has given a long 26-page judgment. They've gone into Places of Worship Act, the Waqf Act, but the gist really is that because worship was going on till 1993 and they are not, and the petitioners are only asking for right to worship at that spot and not for a change in the character, that is why the court has found it maintainable. So what next now, sir? What else has the court said?
देखिए, जो कोर्ट का जो 26 पेज का इलॉबरेट ऑर्डर है और उसने पक्ष विपक्ष के जितने भी रूलिंग साइट किए गए थे ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट के ऑनरेबल, उसको डिस्कस करते हुए ऑनरेबल कोर्ट जो फाइंडिंग पे पहुंची है कि प्लेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट, वक्फ एक्ट, यूपी श्री काशी विश्वनाथ टेम्पल एक्ट, इस मामले में अब कहीं से भी बाधा नहीं है मुकदमे को प्रोसीड करने में, मुकदमे को आगे चलाने में। ये कानून कहीं से भी रोड़ा नहीं है, बाधा नहीं है। तो ऑनरेबल कोर्ट ने स्पष्ट कर दिया कि जो इनका ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 की एप्लीकेशन खारिज कर दी और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि 22 तारीख तक इनको जवाबदेही दाखिल करनी है। मतलब आज है डेट, आपका समझ लीजिए 12 तारीख, मात्र 10 दिन में इनको पूरे दावे का जवाब दाखिल करना है सभी डिपेंडेंट को, जिसमें स्टेट भी पार्टी है, जो क्या कहते हैं अंजुमन इंतजामिया भी पार्टी है, इनको वो लगाना। उसके बाद 22 तारीख को कोर्ट इशू फ्रेम करेगी। इशू फ्रेम का मतलब ये होता है कि कोर्ट आगे के मुकदमे कैसे प्रोसीड हो, मुकदमे में क्या क्या चीजें कोर्ट को देखना है, वो पॉइंट्स तय करेगी और उस पॉइंट के बिना पे ऑनरेबल कोर्ट साक्षी इनवाइट करेगी दोनों पक्षों से और साक्ष्य की प्रक्रिया होने के बाद अल्टीमेटली कोर्ट इसमें आदेश पारित करेगी जो डिग्री होगा। और यदि कोर्ट डिग्री करेगी तो जो पूजा का अधिकार मांगा गया है वो मिलेगा हिंदू पक्ष को और श्रृंगार गौरी की जो पूजा अर्चना 92 से पहले होती रही है उसको कोर्ट जो है एक लीगल जामा पहनाते हुए उसको जो है हिंदुओं को वहां पे पूजा करने का अधिकार देगी, ऐसा हम अनुमान करते हैं।
देखिए, तो बेसिकली 22 तारीख को अब से अब सुनवाई शुरू होगी, पूरा लंबा ये ट्रायल चलेगा। उस वक्त क्या किस तरह से रहेगा सर, क्या क्या इश्यूज है,
क्या है कि निश्चित रूप से जैसे अयोध्या का केस हम लोगों ने देखा, बहुत लंबी बहुत एग्जॉस्टिव प्रक्रिया चली, 48 से मुकदमा सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक जाते जाते 1920 आ गया, मतलब डिकेड्स लग गए और ये जो सरकार की इच्छा शक्ति नहीं होती तो टलता ही जाता। तो हमको उम्मीद है कि इस वक्त जो सरकार हो न्यायिक प्रक्रिया को गति देने के लिए कटिबद्ध है और हम भी चाहते हैं कि इस पूरे मुकदमे की जल्द से जल्द एक हफ्ते की डेट लगा के डे बाय डे हियरिंग करके इस मुकदमे को जल्द से जल्द डिसाइड किया जाए। जो कि क्वेश बना हुआ है लोगों में, जो एक पक्ष विपक्ष में एक अविश्वास का भाव है, जब कोर्ट का आदेश आ जाएगा तो जैसे अयोध्या का मसला हल हो गया उस तरह ज्ञानवापी का भी मसला हल हो जाएगा। यहाँ आपको हम बताना चाहेंगे कि आज जो आदेश आया है ये सिर्फ श्रृंगार गौरी के लिए है। 91 का एक टाइटल सूट जिसमें पूरे प्रीमाइसेस को चैलेंज किया गया है,
वो भी पेंडिंग है,
वो भी पेंडिंग है, वो भी हाई कोर्ट में आज की डेट में आज ही उसकी हियरिंग चल रही है। और ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 जो ऑनरेबल कोर्ट ने 98 में डिसाइड किया था उसी को सुनवाई ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट कर रही है।
So sir, the basic issue is that because there is a difference in the kind of prayer that is being made, because there is a difference, because पुराना जो सूट था उसमें टाइटल मांगा था पूरे प्रेमिसेस का, अब ये कहा है कि हमें जाकर पूजा करने दीजिए, इसीलिए पूजा के अधिकार के ऊपर कोर्ट ने कह दिया कि सुनवाई योग्य है। पहले बोला गया था कि सुनवाई योग्य नहीं।
देखिए दर्शकों को मैं एकदम क्लियर कर दूं कि जो पूरा 3100 जो रकबा है 1 बीघा 9 बिस्सा 6 धूर जैसा बताया जा रहा है वो पूरा विवादित संपत्ति है। लेकिन आज जो श्रृंगार गौरी का मसला है जिसपे आप हमारी बाइट ले रही हैं, जिसपे आदेश हम 26 पेज का पढ़ रहे हैं, ये सिर्फ श्रृंगार गौरी के पूजा अर्चना की बाबत है, ये टाइटल सूट नहीं है। टाइटल सूट 91 का लंबित है। इसके अलावा 6-7 क्या हमको लगते हैं 10-12 के मुकदमे अलग से सेपरेट फाइल है। एक मुकदमा फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट में ट्रांसफर है, वहाँ सुनवाई चल रही है। एक मुकदमा मुस्लिम पक्ष ने भी किया हुआ है। तो दावे हैं क्रॉस।
उनके बारे में कुछ कहा है कि उनमें सुनवाई कभी होगी, कब होगी, कैसे होगी, कि सिर्फ अभी ये जो 5 हिंदू जो 5 लेडीज का जो पिटीशन है सिर्फ पूजा के अधिकार की श्रृंगार
में कोई इब्बत नहीं है कि आज का जो आदेश है वो श्रृंगार गौरी के लिए है। एक मुकदमे में आदेश है, अन्य सभी मुकदमों में क्या होगा ये देखना बड़ा मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग होगा कि उसमें क्या आदेश होता है और खासकर टाइटल सूट में क्या होता है, क्योंकि जब तक वो अलग चलेगा। इस मुकदमे में एक जो बहुत रिमार्केबल पहलू हुआ जिसको हम क्या कहते हैं अयोध्या में जो ताला खुलने से उसको कंपेरिजन करते हैं कि इसमें जो सर्वे कमीशन गया है, सर्वे कमीशन में एक शिवलिंग मिला है, वो बड़ा टर्निंग पॉइंट है।
कोर्ट ने जो अब सर्वे की रिपोर्ट जो आई है वो देखी जाएगी या नहीं, वो आगे वो आप
बता दें ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 में सर्वे की जो रिपोर्ट है वो पढ़ी नहीं गई थी, वो सिर्फ प्लेंट के आधार पे और काउंटर क्लेम जो इनका बहस हुआ।
अब सर्वे रिपोर्ट भी पढ़ी जाएगी और आगे सुनवाई भी चलेगी।
साक्ष्य में ऑनरेबल कोर्ट ग्रहण करेगी। कोर्ट उसको साक्ष्य के रूप में एक एक हर्फ, एक एक अक्षर, एक एक उसका जो लाइन है वो साक्ष्य में ग्राह्य होगा। उनको ऑब्जेक्शन इन्वाइट होगा। जो विपक्षी थी उनको सर्वे रिपोर्ट पे कोई आपत्ति होगी वो आपत्ति देंगे। लेकिन इस मुकदमे का जो सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग पहलू मेरे जहन में आता है वो ये है कि बाबा विश्वनाथ का जो शिवलिंग जो का मिलना, वो पूरा इससे लोगों की भावनाएं जुड़ी हुई है। सब लोग एक जैसे होता है ना, लोग जग के कह रहे यहाँ पे शिवलिंग था। तो ये जो सरप्राइजिंग जो चीजें आई हैं जो डेवलप हुई। अच्छा
आगे देखा जाए।
एक चीज और आपको बता दें कि 91 के मुकदमे में भी सर्वे रिपोर्ट गई थी लेकिन वो शिवलिंग तक नहीं पहुंच पाई थी। लेकिन जो 2022 में जो सर्वे रिपोर्ट गई उसको मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा कि उसने एक एक चीज को मैन्युटली ऑब्जर्व किया और उस शिवलिंग का पता लगाया। तो ये पूरे मुकदमे को देखिए। एक चीज और मैं बता दूं आपके दर्शकों को कि अयोध्या केस में और ज्ञानवापी केस में बहुत डिफरेंस है। अयोध्या में साबित करने के लिए खुदाई करनी पड़ी थी। इसमें तो आपको मैं बता दूं कि जो पूरा सो कॉल्ड मस्जिद का परमाइसेज है, कहा जा रहा है कथित मस्जिद, उसकी जो पश्चिमी दीवार है वो तो चीख के कह रहे कि मैं मंदिर हूँ। उसके ईंट, उसके दीवार, मतलब एक एक चीज है वहाँ। यदि आर्कोलॉजिकल सर्वे का भी उसमें जैसे 91 के मुकदमे में आदेश हुआ है जो ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट में जो चुनौती देगी, ये जब सारी चीजें फ्लोर पे आएंगी तो निश्चित रूप से वो पूरा टाइटल सूट हम लोग के हिंदुओं
को अलग, लेकिन वो अलग चल रहा है और यहाँ पर जो हुआ है दैट इज अ सेपरेट इशू। बट राइट नाउ व्हाट द एडवोकेट इज टेलिंग अस नबीला is that the issue of the title suit is completely separate. The petition today is for the right to worship. So women who want to go and worship daily at the Shringar Gauri temple could see a ray of hope. This petition will be heard, the survey will be taken into account, the evidence etc. will be taken, and the court in its order has very clearly said that the Places of Worship Act will not apply on this issue of the right to worship. So very clear legal nuances being created between the title suit and the right to worship. But for now, it is a big win for the women who wanted to go and pay their respects to Shringar Gauri Devi. Back to you.
You know, Anisha, as much as we see all those celebrations happening right outside the Varanasi District Court and even the Gyanvapi complex, we heard the petitioner's lawyer, Mr. Jain, who said that this is entirely a temple that was demolished and a mosque was built. Even if it was in the Mughal area, we don't care. We want to reclaim our lost heritage. So they're insistent that they want this mosque to go, and gates must be opened up for a temple just like what we saw in Ayodhya. These are the sweeping statements some of them are making, including the lawyer himself. Do you believe that this appeal asking for that entire mosque to be moved out and for a temple to be coming up will be something that could echo in court in the near future?
Well, as we've just been talking, Nabila, we just spoke to Nityanand Rai also, who's also one of the lawyers. There is a very distinct difference between demanding that the mosque should be removed and the entire premises should be handed back to Baba Bholenath, and what is happening today, which is that the devotees should be allowed to go and worship mosque-Shringar Gauri. So yes, very seriously, we are seeing sweeping statements being made, massive demands being made about a need for a complete change in what is happening there. But we need to remember, Nabila, on a legal front at least, of course, those demands are sentimental demands, they're emotional demands, they're even political demands. But on the legal front, the court is on a very, very limited point at this moment, Nabila. And what we need to, this is something that we need to be very careful about when we are talking about what has happened today. It is a big win for the women devotees of mosque-Shringar Gauri. The larger issue of whether the entire mosque will be removed, whether the entire premises will be given back to Baba Bholenath is not being heard by the courts at all at this moment. That matter is pending before the High Court. That matter is still on the issue of maintainability, where the High Court is considering this matter. So we need to make a very clear distinction between these two. But of course, for the devotees, for even the lawyers, it is a sense of celebration because they believe that now that the court has agreed to hear the matter with regard to access to Shringar Gauri, this could then also be a springboard, a step ahead to for the courts to start looking into the issue of giving back the entire temple premises. But then again, we will have to see,
Anisha,
wait and see what the court actually
absolutely
does.
Have you heard from the Anjuman-e-Islamiyya? Have they responded after the court's verdict? What are their plans to take this forward?
Well, Nabila, I personally have not been able to speak to the lawyers, but our reporters in the field, one of our stringers has been able to speak to one of the lawyers on the phone. They have been saying that they will be approaching the High Court as soon as the detailed order copy is available. Of course, we've been discussing this since the morning, that it is not a case that will end quietly. It is not a case that will end quickly even, because but we are still trying to get an official comment from the Anjuman-e-Islamiyya Mosque Committee on what their next step is going to be.
Hoping to appeal this at a higher court, yeah?
Well, of course, that is what the next step will be. That is legally and logically what their next step will be. And in fact, when we spoke to them yesterday and this morning as well, we did get a sense of the idea that both sides have said that the legal process will take its toll. The legal process will continue as it will, because this verdict has come in the favor of the Hindu petitioners. It is very clear that the next step available to the Muslim petitioners, to the Anjuman-e-Islamiyya, is to approach the High Court in appeal against the district judge's order. And when that happens, what happens there is something we'll have to wait and watch.
So now, Anisha, we are assuming that the next step for the district court in Varanasi is to open up that sealed package of the survey done by the ASI. Is that right? Will the survey report now be opened up for full public view?
Well, I'm not sure about full public view, Nabila, but most certainly the court will open up that report. The court will take into account what has happened there. Because remember, the next step now is going to be for the court to appreciate the evidence that is in place. So the court will have to open up that report. It will have to give copies of the report to both sides, the Hindu side and the Muslim side. Then they will have to invite objections to that report. Whatever either party has to say in comment upon what has been found on that report, report. After that, after giving them a certain amount of time to give their opinion, their comments on the report itself, that is when the court will then start hearing the arguments from both sides on what actually exists there, what is being asked for, and what can be given by the court. Because remember, Mila, these are three very separate questions legally. What is being asked for, what is actually there, and what can the court actually grant are legally very distinct questions. Even though on the ground, if you see right now, we're just across the road from the court premises, and even now outside the court premises, there is a lot of celebration. There is a sense of achievement. There is a sense among the people that what they want for the temple premises is being given to them. But legally, we'll have to caution our viewers that right now it is only a preliminary step that has happened. The court has agreed to hear the women devotees. It has not, in fact, said that the temple will be given over. That is something that will happen if it happens after a long legal battle. So we need to be very cautious when we're talking about what has happened today. It is, of course, a big win that the court is hearing this matter. But from hearing the matter to getting the temple back is a long battle that still needs to be fought.
All right, Anisha, I'm going to take some of the reactions, Anisha, but I will come back to you, of course, to give us an understanding again once more, another round on what exactly the court observed while saying that the Hindu side plea is maintainable. On what basis have they declared it maintainable? But before that, taking you through reactions right after the court's verdict came out, the joyous comments.
आज कोर्ट ने हमारे आज कोर्ट ने हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट्स को मान लिया है। मुस्लिम पक्ष की एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी है। प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट की उनकी जो प्ली थी उसको खारिज कर दिया है। वक्फ एक्ट की प्ली को खारिज कर दिया है। कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सूट मेंटेनेबल है। अब इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 22/9 को होगी और एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी। इशूज
मुझे लग रहा है कि सनातन धर्म में जो विश्वास है और जो उन्होंने किया है, न्यायालय ने सब कुछ पूरी चीज़ों की छानबीन करके किया है और इसलिए मैं उस न्यायालय का जो निर्णय है उसका स्वागत करता हूँ पूरी तरह से। और
ट्वीट भी किया है उसके लिए।
हाँ, ट्वीट किया है, कंकड़ कंकड़ मेरा शंकर, मैं काशी हूँ, मैं काशी हूँ, मैं काशी हूँ, मैं काशी हूँ। ये काशी अविनाशी होता है, इसलिए सबका कल्याण करने वाला काशी है।
मुस्लिम पक्ष ये कह रहा है कि वो ऊपरी कोर्ट में जाएंगे जो उनके खिलाफ फैसला है।
देखो, ये भारतीय संस्कृति का, ये सांस्कृतिक उत्थान के लिए जितने भी हैं, चाहे काशी हो, चाहे मथुरा हो, अयोध्या, मथुरा, माया, काशी, कांची, अवंतिका, पुरी, द्वारावती, चेवा, सप्तेता, मोक्षदायिका, ये सभी मोक्षदायिका हमारी संस्कृति है भारत की और इसमें किसी भी वर्ग को हम चोट नहीं पहुंचा रहे हैं। ये और उसके लिए किसी को समझना कि हम किसी वर्ग पर आहत कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं। हम सबको लेके चलने वाले हैं। हमारे हिंदू मुसलमान भाई हमारे सभी लोग भाई हैं।
हिंदू पक्ष काफ़ी खुश है इस बात को लेकर।
मुझे लग रहा है खुश होना स्वाभाविक है कि जो हमारी संस्कृति थी वो कहीं न कहीं उस पर पर्दा डाल दिया था, उस पर दबाव जो पहले पड़ा और उसके कारण जो हमारी संस्कृति को विनिष्ट किया, चाहे जिन लोगों ने किया, तो आज तो स्वाभाविक है कोर्ट का जो निर्णय आया तो हिंदू पक्ष और सनातन धर्मावलंबियों के लिए खुश होने में लेकिन कोई कठिनाई नहीं है जी इसमें।
हिंदू पक्ष इस बात को लेकर के खुश है। अश्विनी चौबे भी ये कह रहे हैं कि जो फैसला आया है उसको लेकर के वो काफ़ी खुश हैं और इनका ये कहना है कि इस बात को देखते हुए वो अब आगे बढ़ेंगे। कैमरामैन नासिर के साथ जितेंद्र सिंह, आज तक।
क्या हुआ कोर्ट में आज बताइए।
माननीय न्यायालय ने जो 7 रूल 11 की तहत उन्होंने आपत्ति लगाई थी कि ये जो है 1991 के कानून को बाधित कर रहा है, इसलिए इसको खारिज किया जाए। माननीय न्यायालय ने उनकी आपत्ति को ही खारिज करके ये मामला पोषणीय है, मेंटेनेबल है, ये दावा चलेगा, ऐसा उन्होंने आज मुहर लगा दिया है।
तो अब आगे क्या होगा?
अब आगे की कार्रवाई हम लोग बिल्कुल अब आगे की हम लोग जो है तैयारी करेंगे। अब अगली तमाम जो है ट्रायल चलेगा, उस दावा हम लोगों का अब ये चलेगा न्यायालय में।
तो भाई हम पूछ रहे हैं सर, दावे का जो सुनवाई होगी अब आगे, जो आप लोगों ने याचिका डाली है उसमें दावा जो डाला है उसके और जो सर्वे की जो रिपोर्ट थी उसको कोर्ट कर
बिल्कुल सर्वे की रिपोर्ट और पूरा ट्रायल चलेगा। अब ये दावा हमारा मुकदमा चलेगा और आगे जो भी है सब प्रोसेस में चलेगा कोर्ट, इसलिए अब आगे तो अब समय बताएगा कि हम लोग को क्या करना है, क्या एक्शन लेना है।
क्या हुआ सुनवाई में, क्या हुआ?
सुनवाई में
आपने क्या बोला है, थोड़ा डिटेल में बताएंगे?
सुनवाई में उन्होंने जो मुस्लिम पक्ष ने रखा था कि ये 1991 के कानून को बाल्ड कर रहा है ये आपका दावा, इसलिए इसको खारिज किया जाए, वक्त की संपत्ति है। और हम लोगों ने जो पक्ष रखा था कि ये कहीं से भी बाधित नहीं हो रहा है, उन्होंने कहा कि 1991 को जो ये कानून है उस कानून इससे कहीं बाधित नहीं हो रहा है, क्योंकि ये केवल पूजन का जो है अर्चन का ही मांग कर रहे हैं, पूजा का अधिकार मांग रहे हैं, इसलिए कहते हुए उन्होंने खारिज कर दिया, उनकी आपत्ति को ही खारिज कर दिया है।
जी, फैसला हिंदू पक्ष,
बिल्कुल फैसला हिंदू पक्ष में है। और हमने कहा था पूर्व में भी कि ये नजीर बनेगा, और आज ये नजीर बना है। 1991 जो है कहीं पूजा पाठ के अधिकार को नहीं रोकता है, और ये हमारा जो दावा है ये पोषणीय है और चलता रहेगा।
जी, तो कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि आप लोगों का, क्योंकि आपने सिर्फ पूजा अर्चना का अधिकार मांगा इसलिए पोषणीय है।
बिल्कुल, पूजा का हमने कोई स्टेटस जो है चेंजिंग की बात तो हम लोगों ने किया नहीं है, हम लोग केवल पूजा पाठ के ही अधिकार को मांग रहे थे। और ये वैसे भी जो विवादित परिसर है, जो विवाद धर्मस्थल जो विवादित है, उस पर 1991 का कानून लागू नहीं होता है।
आज फैसले का एक गौरवशाली दिन था। हम पहले व्यक्ति थे जो सर्वे के बाद ये कह रहे कि बाबा मिल गए, और आज ये कह रहे हैं कि आज का विजय, आज का फैसला काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर के शिलान्यास का बीजारोपण का दिन ये साबित होगा आज का फैसला। और हम हर्षित हैं, हिंदू समाज हर्षित है, कि सारे सनातन धर्मी हर्षित है, और पूरा उत्तर प्रदेश हर्षित है।
मैंने बोला था इतिहास रचेंगे, आज हम लोगों ने इतिहास रच दिया है।
अब ये बताइए कि कोर्ट रूम के भीतर जब आप लोग मौजूद थी और जज केस फैसला सुना रहे थे, तो आप लोगों का मनोभाव क्या था? कोर्ट रूम के भीतर क्या?
कोर्ट में जो भी फैसला होता था हम लोग सुनते थे, और हम लोग को पूरी उम्मीद थी फैसला हम लोग के हक में ही आएगा, क्योंकि साक्ष्य हम लोग के पास थे, उन लोग के पास कोई नहीं था। वो लोग कोर्ट का समय व्यर्थ कर रहे थे, कोर्ट को गुमराह कर रहे थे, और हमेशा सत्य की विजय।
आज जब जज महोदय ने कहा कि ये मेंटेनेबल है, तो
उनका खारिज कर दिया गया, इसलिए आज हम लोग की बहुत बड़ी जीत है। और हम लोग अभी तो ये झांकी है, दर्शन अभी बाकी है, अभी तो झांकी है, बाबा दर्शन बाकी है। ये बाबा भोलेनाथ माँ श्रृंगार गौरी की जीत हुई है, उनके साथ साथ पूरे भारतवासियों की जीत हुई है।
अब आगे आप करेंगे क्या?
आगे अभी तो खुशी मनाएंगे, अभी तो पहले खुशी का एहसास होना लीजिए। मान पूर्णा भैरो बाबा, रहा न कोई बाकी, कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, हर हर महादेव।
उनमें भरोसा करते हैं, कानून पर मुझे भरोसा है, क्योंकि हम कहाँ जाएंगे? मेरे लिए मक्का मदीना तो है नहीं, हमारे लिए तो सब कुछ यही काशी मथुरा अयोध्या ही है, तो हम यहाँ छोड़ करके कहाँ जाएंगे? लेकिन कानून को भी हम सम्मान करते हैं, कानून के साथ। नंदी की तपस्या सब दिन समाप्त हुआ है, देर है अंधेर नहीं है।
जिस प्रकार से काशी विश्वनाथ मामले में भगवान विश्वेश्वर महादेव के पक्ष में निर्णय आया है और एक कहा लिया गया है, एक माननीय कोर्ट ने माना है इस बात को कि एक केस सुनने योग्य है। अब न्याय मिलेगा, जैसे राम मंदिर में न्याय मिला था, नंदी की तपस्या पूर्ण हुई और निश्चित रूप से वहां पे भव्य विश्वेश्वर भगवान का मंदिर बनेगा।
उन लोग का 7-11 खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में मुकदमा हम लोग जीत गए, अब हम लोग की मुकदमा चलेगा। बहुत खुशी है, आज हम लोग ने इतिहास रच दिया है। अंदर जज साहब ने फैसला सुनाया है, उसके बाद उन लोग का खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में आ गया है।
फैसला हिंदू पक्ष में आया है, हम सबको खुशी है, आज काशी बम बम बोल रहा है।
The first hurdle has been crossed. Now the court will examine the matter on its own merits. We do hope and look forward to a victory for the law, the justice and the truth is with us.
हम माननीय न्यायालय के निर्णय का स्वागत करते हैं और बहुत अच्छा निर्णय है। और मुझे लगता है कि इससे देश के लोगों की जो भावनाएं थीं उनको बहुत आदर मिला है, सम्मान मिला है, सभी लोग बहुत खुश हैं। अब माननीय न्यायालय का जो भी निर्णय होगा हम लोग उसको पालन करेंगे।
All right, let me quickly cut across Anisha for more on that. Anisha, we heard all the reactions coming in post the verdict. Of course, people are super excited and enthused with the fact that the court has decided to hear this matter in the first place. But like you and I discussed a little earlier, clearly some sweeping statements being made with regards to that entire mosque to be turned into a temple. If you can give us an understanding, first of all, on what basis and grounds has the court decided that this plea is maintainable under the court of law and that it's not bound by the Places of Worship Act?
Well, Nabila, we're still outside the district court premises, and I'm going to ask my camera person to pan around and show you there are discarded boxes of mithais everywhere here. There was a massive celebration as the Hindu devotees believe that they have got what they wanted. The women petitioners, of course, they will be heard now in detail. What you and I, however, need to remember, Nabila, and this is something that we need to remind our viewers, that the court has agreed to hear the petition filed by the women petitioners. At this point, there is no order from the court which says that the puja at the Shringar Gauri can in fact happen. That whether or not the puja can happen is now something.
Isha, I'm going to put you on hold. A quick look at Samarth there, who's bringing us shots of sweets being distributed.
आपको दिखाएंगे यहाँ मिठाइयाँ बांटी जा रही हैं. हमारे साथ अगर आएंगे तो ये देखेंगे कि किस तरह से यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि मिठाइयाँ बट रही हैं. लोग यहाँ पर हर्षोल्लास में हैं, कहीं ना कहीं खुशियाँ मना रही हैं. देखिए, एक दूसरे को मिठाइयाँ बांटी जा रही हैं. क्या लगता है, खुशी?
बहुत ऐतिहासिक खुशी है, बहुत.
क्या कहेंगे इस पूरा, आप जिस तरह से मिठाइयाँ बांट रहे हैं?
बहुत दिल प्रसन्न है कि आज बाबा के दिन, सोमवार का दिन है, महादेव की नगरी में बाबा का फैसला आया. इसके लिए इन जितने अधिवक्ता लोग हैं सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
ठीक है, सब जो हुआ तो सही हुआ. हाँ, यस जी हाँ. मिठाई के क्या मायने?
मिठाई के ये मायने है, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष पहले लोग फवारा साबित करते थे, हमारा शिवजी बाबा को उनको स्थापित, मतलब ये जिला न्यायालय ने उसको मोहर लगा दिया कि हाँ ये शिवलिंग है. इसलिए हम लोग खुशी में मिठाइयाँ खा रहे हैं. अभी जो सुनवाइयाँ होगी 22 सितंबर को, वो तो आगे देखा जाएगा.
देखिए, यहाँ पर खुशी का माहौल है और लोग मिठाइयाँ खाकर बांट कर जो है अपनी खुशियाँ मना रहे हैं. क्या कहेंगे, बताइए, खुशियाँ मना रहे हैं, आप लोग मिठाइयाँ बांट रहे हैं.
सर, ये ऐतिहासिक जीत है और यह जीत स्वर्णिम अक्षरों में लिखा जाएगा भारत के इतिहास में. और इस जीत से समस्त सनातन धर्मी बहुत हर्षोल्लास में है.
मुस्लिम पक्ष तो हाईकोर्ट जाएगा.
ऐसा है, वो दुनिया के किसी कोर्ट में चले जाए. देखिए, एक बात मैं बता दूं, ये जो आज निर्णय आया है, ये पक्ष भी जानता था, विपक्ष भी जानता था. जो लोग शिवलिंग को फवारा कह रहे हैं, वो जानते हैं कि वो विश्वेश्वर भगवान का ज्योतिर्लिंग है. वो ये जानते हैं कि वो मंदिर है, सब जानते हैं, लेकिन कुछ लोगों ने गुमराह कर रखा है.
संगठन से हैं आप?
मैं पृथ्वी फाउंडेशन का प्रबंधक नागेश्वर मिश्रा, थाना सारनाथ का निवासी हूँ, तिलमापुर का.
आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर लोग खुश हैं, खुशियाँ मना रहे हैं, कह रहे हैं किसी भी कोर्ट में चले जाएं पर जीत इन्हीं की होगी. कैमरामैन संदीप के साथ समर्थ श्रीवास्तव, वाराणसी आज तक.
All right. Let me quickly cut across to the Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Brajesh Patil, who has spoken soon after the verdict.
किस तरीके से देख रहे, एक जीत लग रही है आपको जिस तरीके से पूरा मामला चला?
हम माननीय न्यायालय के निर्णय का स्वागत करते हैं और बहुत अच्छा निर्णय है. और मुझे लगता है कि इससे देश के लोगों की जो भावनाएं थीं उनको बहुत आदर मिला है, सम्मान मिला है. सभी लोग बहुत खुश हैं और माननीय न्यायालय का जो भी निर्णय होगा हम लोग उसको पालन करेंगे.
22 सितंबर को आगे मामला सुना जाएगा. पूछनीता पर तो पूरी बात हो गई, लेकिन अब जो सर्वे में चीजें सामने आई थी, क्या मंदिर में क्या था,
ये सब माननीय न्यायालय का काम है. लेकिन हमारा दायित्व ये है कि उत्तर प्रदेश में हम कानून के राज को स्थापित रखें, किसी को भी डिस्टर्ब करने की अनुमति न हो और हर तरह से हम लोग तैयार हैं. सभी पुलिस प्रशासन को, अधिकारियों को सतर्कता बरतते हुए आगे बढ़ने के लिए कहा गया है. हर स्थिति में उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज सुदृढ़ रूप से स्थापित रहेगा.
आयुष की सुनवाई चलेगी. आपको लगता है कि इस मामले को जल्द से जल्द सुन के निपटान किया?
अब ये माननीय न्यायालय का विषय है, लेकिन हम लोग अपने पक्ष में सबको कहते हैं कि उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज कायम रहेगा.
इस तरीके से सवाल उठ रहे थे सर्वेक्षण को लेकर के भी, सरकार भी चूंकि इसमें एक भूमिका में है. आपको लगता है कि वो चीजों पे जवाब आज?
देखिए, जिस ढंग से ये फैसला है, लोग बहुत खुश हैं प्रदेश के. और अब माननीय न्यायालय के आगे वाले निर्णय का भी हम लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं. जो भी निर्णय आएगा उसका हम पालन करेंगे.
साफ तौर पर उत्तर प्रदेश के उप मुख्यमंत्री ने सीधे तौर पर इस फैसले का स्वागत किया और साथ ही कहा है कि आने वाले समय में सरकार आने वाले तैयारियों को लेकर के और सीधे तौर पर सरकार हर फैसले को मानने के लिए पूरी तरीके से स्वागत करती है और आने वाले समय में इसमें कार्रवाई और तेज होगी।
जो मुस्लिम पक्ष की पिटीशन है ऑर्डर 7 रूल 11 की, वो रिजेक्ट कर दी गई है।
विश्वास है निश्चित यह विजय दिन हिंदू समाज के ज्ञानवापी मंदिर के लिए यह शिलान्यास का बीजारोपण का दिन है।
चलनी है वैसे चलती रहेगी, लेकिन सभी पक्षों से मैं यह जरूर अपील करूंगा, इस फैसले का मैं भी स्वागत करता हूं, सब लोग स्वागत करें और किसी भी प्रकार से इस विषय को लेकर के कोई विवाद उत्पन्न करने का काम ना करें। यह एक बहुत साफ सुथरी न्यायिक प्रक्रिया के अंतर्गत जो न्यायालय के सामने विषय रखे गए हैं उसके आधार पर सुनवाई हुई है और सुनवाई के बाद यह सुनने योग्य है कि नहीं है इस विषय को लेकर के फैसला आया और फैसला आने के बाद सभी लोग इसका स्वागत कर रहे हैं, मैं भी स्वागत कर रहा
हूँ। All right. Let me quickly cut across to Anisha Mathur for more on that. Anisha, every voice from the, from right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque complex, mostly endorsing what the court has upheld today, the maintainability of the Hindu side. Their plea is now maintainable in the court of law. This is what's declared today, and that's the celebration that we see from most parts of Varanasi. And as much as we see these joyous celebrations, why don't you break it down for our viewers? Exactly on what basis has the district court decided to uphold the plea, saying that this does not come, the Places of Worship Act does not veto the plea filed by the Hindu side? On what grounds have they established that?
Well, Nabila, let me once again take you through the legal nuances that have been carved out in this case by the court. Now, what we need to remember is that while the celebrations have started, and of course outside the Varanasi district court, people are still chanting slogans, they're happy, the sweets are being distributed, but we also as reporters, as a responsible media, also need to remind viewers that this is only the first preliminary issue that has been decided by the court. The court has not at this point given anyone permission to actually go and worship at the temple, nor has it made any decisions with regard to the actual character of that premises. The court has simply said that yes, we can hear these petitions. Now, on what the court has said, and it's a 26-page verdict that we've just been flipping through, Nabila, the court has basically said that the petitions that have been filed by these 5 Hindu women devotees is for access to the temple that already exists, is for access to the Shivling Gauri temple, which they actually had access to till 1993. Secondly, what the court has said is that they have not asked for change in the religious structure or the religious character. They only want that the access that was stopped, that should be retained, and the court has said that right to worship is a fundamental right, it is a civil right, and nobody can interfere with that, and therefore it is a maintainable issue that the Places of Worship Act cannot bar a petition when it is about right to worship. That is the legal nuance that the court has carved out.
सर, किस तरीके से आप देख रहे हैं जिस तरीके से कोर्ट ने ये बात कही है कि पोषणीयता पर टिकेगा, मामला सुना जाना चाहिए, तमाम दलीलों को खारिज किया गया है अंजुमन इंतजामिया की तरफ से?
देखिए, हम लोग अदालत के हर ऑब्जर्वेशन और फैसले का रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, और लेकिन जो बाबरी मस्जिद के फाइनल जजमेंट में जो कुछ ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट 1991 के सिलसिले में कहा था, तो उससे ये उम्मीद जाहिर हुई थी कि अब कोई मंदिर मस्जिद का मामला नहीं उठेगा और हर तरीके से मामला सेटल हो गया है। लेकिन आज के इस फैसले के बाद हम समझते हैं, जो भी लीगल एक्सपर्ट्स हैं वो एक बार फिर से जो भी एक आज फैसला आया है उसको स्टडी करेंगे और उसके बाद ही आगे कोई राय कायम की जा सकती है।
आप क्या इत्तेफाक रखते हैं कोर्ट की बातों से, जिस तरीके की बातें कही गई? आप सर्वे को लेकर के आप लोगों की तरफ से सवाल खड़े किए जा रहे थे, लेकिन पुष्णिता पे आज पूरी बात उन्होंने साफ कर दी।
देखिए, मस्जिद कोई आज की बनी नहीं है, सैकड़ों साल पहले मस्जिद बनी थी और हमेशा से वहाँ नमाज होती आ रही है, आज भी वहाँ पे नमाज हो रही है। तो लिहाजा इस किस्म के जो मसाइल उठाए जा रहे हैं बार बार, उससे कहीं ना कहीं बाहर ममालिक में भी एक गलत मैसेज जाता है। मेरी हिंदू और मुसलमान दोनों से यही अपील है कि हर तरीके से अमन अमान कायम रखें और इस केस को भी सिर्फ और सिर्फ अदालत में ही लड़ा जाए।
आप इसको एक हार मानेंगे या एक तरीके से नई शुरुआत कहेंगे? क्योंकि आप भले ही पुष्णिता की बात अब खत्म हो गई है, अब मामला सुना जाना है, 22 सितंबर की डेट है, आगे का क्या रुख होगा आप लोगों की तरफ?
नहीं, इसमें हार या जीत का भी कोई सवाल नहीं उठता, क्योंकि अभी तो अब तो कहना चाहिए एक तरीके से केस स्टार्ट होगा। दोनों साइड्स अपनी अपनी दलीलें रखेंगे और जाहिर सी बात है सबूत की बुनियाद पर अदालत फैसला करेगी।
आपको लगता है कि आप स्टैंड पर जो कायम रहेंगे, आप इस बात को प्रूव कर पाएंगे कि मस्जिद को लेकर के जो बातें आपने कोर्ट में कही गई थी आप लोग की तरफ से, वो आप आगे के मामलों में कैसे उसको और बलतापूर्वक?
यकीनी तौर पर जो भी अपने मुस्लिम साइड के पास सबूत हैं उनको अदालत के सामने पूरी मजबूती के साथ रखा जाएगा और हम लोगों को पूरी उम्मीद है कि इंशाअल्लाह मस्जिद कायम रहेगी।
साफ तौर पर सीधे तौर पर इस बात को कह रहे हैं कि पूरी उम्मीद करते हैं कि आने वाले समय में जब ये मामला सुना जाएगा तो मुस्लिम पक्ष अपनी तमाम चीज़ों को कोर्ट में रखेगा और आने वाले समय में भी उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि न्यायालय का जो फैसला होगा वो सर्वमान्य होगा। लेकिन फिलहाल के तौर पर कहीं ना कहीं कोर्ट ने इस बात को साफ कर दिया कि ज्ञानवापी प्रकरण में मामला गोपनीयता के आधार पर आगे सुना जाना चाहिए।
All right, visuals coming in. All those images there shows of much joy right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque and the Varanasi court. We see the Hindu petitioners and people associated to them, of course, celebrating right after the court gave out a verdict upholding the Hindu side plea, claiming that plea to be maintainable under law. Let me cut across to Anisha. Anisha, you were saying, I cut you short. On what grounds and basis has the court decided that this plea is maintainable? They've rejected the Hindu side challenging this plea in the first place. The court has, penned down some details in that court order that we've seen. Why don't you elaborate for us?
Well, yes, Nabila, I have the 26-page order that the court has passed, and we are just flipping through that order. Now, what the court has said, has done, is gone through all the laws that the Muslim side had said were applicable. It is the Places of Worship Act has been discussed, the Waqf Act has been discussed, the issue regarding other...
मानस के हिसाब से
आपने पढ़ लिया है पूरी?
हाँ, मैंने पूरा पढ़ा है।
26 पन्नों की है।
आपको मैं एक बात और बता दूं, मैं इस बात के लिए जिला जज साहब को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं और हम लोग मतलब आप सभी हिंदू भाई जो भी अधिवक्ता है सबका धन्यवाद देता हूं कि पूरा वर्बेटम जिला जज साहब ने पूरे आर्गुमेंट को कोट किया, उसमें बहुत अच्छी बात है ये। और आपको बताऊं कि जो है वक्फ एक्ट 1995 जो है सबसे मोटी बात यह है कि नॉन मुस्लिम और मुस्लिम के बीच नहीं चलता है।
वादी पक्ष के वकील?
जी, वादी संख्या 1 राखी सिंह की तरफ से मैं अधिवक्ता हूँ। वादी संख्या 1 की तरफ से 3 अधिवक्ता, मान बहादुर जी, मैं और शिवम गौड़, हम 3 अधिवक्ता हैं। और वक्फ एक्ट 1995 जो है वो नॉन मुस्लिम और मुस्लिम के बीच में नहीं चलता है। ये वक्फ की प्रॉपर्टी है कि नहीं है ये बाद में देखा जाएगा, ये एविडेंस का
ये कब देखा जाएगा? अभी तो नया ही मामला लेकर
ये
वक्फ की प्रॉपर्टी है कि
ऐसा है कि ये वक्फ एक्ट का जो है जो मुस्लिम जो इंटरनल मामला होता है उनका, तब ये जो है वक्फ ट्राइब्यूनल के बीच में ये कोई केस जा सकता है। उनका जो ये मांग थी कि ये सिविल सूट नहीं है, ये सिविल में ये वाद जो है नहीं चलना चाहिए, तो ये चीज गलत है, ये निराधार है। ये पॉइंट इसमें नोटेड है कि ये जो है चूंकि
से आम भाषा में तीन लाइन जिसके कारण
मैं वही आपको बता रहा था। मेरे कहने का तात्पर्य ये है कि वो ट्रिब्यूनल में मुकदमा तभी चलता है जब मुस्लिम और मुस्लिमों के बीच में विवाद हो, मुस्लिम और नॉन मुस्लिम के बीच में वक्फ एक्ट का मुकदमा नहीं चलता है। और दूसरी बात ये है कि राइट टू रिलीजियस जो राइट टू वर्शिप जो है वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट तो है, लेकिन साथ ही में वो एक सिविल राइट है, तो उसकी मांग के लिए हम सिविल कोर्ट के सामने जा सकते हैं। 1983 का एप्लीकेबिलिटी हमारे सामने नहीं चलती है।
22 तारीख को जब सुनवाई होगी तो क्या होगा?
देखिए, जज साहब ने जो है उसमें जो लास्ट ऑर्डर दिया हुआ है 22/9 के लिए, उसमें इशू फ्रेम करने के लिए कहा है और WS के लिए कहा है। मैं आपको बता दूं कि
WS क्या है?
ये WS जवाबदेही है। मैं आपको बता दूं साल भर से मुकदमा पेंडिंग, आज तक WS नहीं आया, जबकि 90 दिन का समय होता है। लीगली और लॉजिकली दोनों, लीगली जो है 90 दिन का समय होता है, उससे उनका मुकदमा भी बार होता है। हम लोग उस पर भी विचार करेंगे।
ठीक है, देखिए ये हिंदू पक्ष के तमाम वकील हैं जिनको आप सुन रहे थे। खास मेहमान भी हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। जल्दी से एक टिप्पणियों लोगों के पास चल
All right, cutting back to Anisha. Anisha, apologies to cut you short, but from what we hear extensively is that the court has taken a good look at multiple angles while the hearing was on over the last few months. The court has heard all aspects of this case with regards to whether or not this petition itself is maintainable under the court of law. And after hearing much of those arguments, today the court's decision is that the plea by the Hindu side is indeed maintainable under law. So far, the mosque committee had submitted that the property belonged to the Waqf board and that the matter cannot be heard before court. They argued that only the Waqf board had the right to hear any matter that pertains to the mosque, but it appears that the court has vetoed that as well. Let me cut across to Anisha. Anisha, what grounds has the district court in Varanasi decided to uphold the Hindu side plea, calling it maintainable?
Well, Nabila, the petition that was filed was with regard to right to worship and the right to access the Shringar Gauri temple. And the most important point that is there in this case, in this order, is that the right to worship is a civil right, that if somebody stops someone from exercising their right to worship, then a petition is maintainable. And what the court has done here is that the worship is taken note of the fact that the worship of Ma Shringar Gauri was being regularly done till 1993. Therefore, the 1991 Place of a Worship Act will not be applicable here. That is what the court has said, because the worship rituals were being conducted regularly till 1993. Secondly, what the court has done is they have said that the bar under the Waqf Act will also not apply, because the dispute here is between a Muslim and a non-Muslim, and therefore the issue or the plaintiffs being non-Muslims, the Waqf tribunal decisions will not apply on them. The relief that has been claimed by these Hindu women is separate from the provisions of the Waqf Act. Thirdly, what the court has said is that there also cannot, the Muslim side had argued that under the Kashi Vishwanath Kashi Vishwanath Temple Act, there is also a bar on changing anything that is there in the temple premises. But what the court has said is that that act also has, and I'm quoting here, the no bar has been imposed by the act regarding a suit claiming the right to worship idols that are already installed in the endowment within the premises of the temple or outside it, which basically means that the court has taken note of the argument that was raised by the Hindu side, that those idols, the Shringar Gauri idol, has been in existence before these acts came into being, that the Ma Shringar Gauri idol puja was being conducted even before these laws were framed, and that is why these laws cannot create a bar on the hearing. But we also need to remember that at the moment the court has agreed to hear this matter. The final decision on whether the devotees will be allowed to conduct daily worship or will there be any change at the spot is something that is going to create a much longer drawn legal battle. What we do know, however, is that there is an atmosphere of massive celebration all around Varanasi. Sweets were distributed right here as well. There were a lot of chants, there were a lot of slogans, there was a huge amount of laughter and of celebration here outside the district court in Varanasi. And here it seems, Nabila, that the weather gods seem to be celebrating at this moment. The rain has started in Varanasi. So we are looking at what is going to happen now on the 22nd of September when the matter gets taken up again. The court will continue hearing on these matters. The court will start looking into the evidences. The court will also look into the survey reports and other evidences to see what will be the future of this particular case. Back to you.
Absolutely. So from what we see here, that the court has really upheld the fact that there was puja happening right outside the Gyanvapi Mosque, which is part of the Gauri Shringar complex, at least until 1993. And from then on till today, once a year during the Navratri period, the Hindu side performed puja right at the same spot. So considering that there's so much faith, belief and that kind of devotion involved among the people there towards that towards that Shivling, so-called Shivling. This is what they claim it to be. Of course, it has to be established in due course, and that will happen in the next hearing, where the court opens up the survey report to see what exactly the ASI survey has found, whether or not there are Hindu religious symbols inside the mosque or not. It will be established. But the fact that there was prayers happening at that mosque, right outside that mosque premises, towards where the Shivling is placed, for many, many years, is what has apparently worked in the favor of the Hindu side. Is that right, Anisha?
Well, Nabila, I will have to correct you a little bit there. The Shivling that is purportedly being found in the survey is a completely new thing here. There was the issue before the trial court right now is of the Shringar Gauri temple. Remember, the Shringar Gauri temple is separate from the Shivling that is reported to have been found in this survey. The Shringar Gauri deity's idol is very clearly visible on the on the outer wall of what is currently used as the Gyanvapi Mosque. So the Shringar Gauri temple, the idol of the Devi, is in fact visible. If you're standing nearby, near that entire building, you can see the outline of the deity. The Shivling, of course, that the Hindu side claims has been found during the survey, is a completely different issue. That will, whether or not what happens to that is something that the court will have to look into once the matter is heard in detail. But for now, the issue is of the Shringar Gauri temple, that there is an idol of the Devi there. There are other artifacts in that area, and what the Hindu I beg your pardon, what the Hindu petitioners have been talking about is that during the survey of that site, they have also found what they believe is a Shivling under the mosque premises itself. So it is now expanding it is now an expansion of the issue that was there earlier in 2020 when these women came to the court and said, let us go worship the Devi, let us go worship Shringar Gauri. Nobody knew that there could be something else found at that premises.
Right.
What they did know is that the Devi's idol is there, that there are other artifacts there.
All right, so it all started with the Shringar Gauri's idol, which is aligned on the wall of that Gyanvapi Mosque. That's where they wanted to pray, and they pushed for a survey to be done. The survey eventually found a lot more symbolism for the Hindu religion, like that Shivling. That survey report needs to be scrutinized, and that's what's going to be happening in court. Anisha, next. That's the next course of action. The district court will open up the sealed file on that survey done by the ASI.
Well, we'll have to see what the step taken by the court will be next. Now, the hearing will be next on 22nd of September, where the court is going to frame the issues that have to be considered. One of the issues that has to be considered by the court is whether the survey is correct, whether the survey could have been done. Now, so and I'm repeating this again and again, Nabila, while there is an atmosphere of celebration around here, we as responsible media need to be very careful when we're talking about the different aspects of this entire dispute. The survey is one thing that the court will have to consider. The Shivling is something that the court will have to consider at a later stage. Right now, what the court has said is that yes, the Shringar Gauri idol is there. It is something that was being worshipped even earlier by the women devotees. It is something that they still have got the right to worship at least once a year. Therefore, their right to worship is something that the court can look into if somebody is trying to stop them from exercising that right to worship. So very carefully the nuances, the different developments and the different issues in this case will have to be considered, because sweeping statements have been made by various persons, and the administration and the police is trying to make very, very sure that nothing happens in this entire area that could lead to any sort of problems. But yes, it is a win for the Hindu women devotees who wanted to worship Shringar Gauri. What happens to the other artifacts found in that area, what happens next in the case, is what we will find out on the 22nd of September when the court decides to look into the framing of these issues. Remember, once again, I am reiterating this is not the end of the litigation. This is only the beginning of it. The court has to look into what are the things that they can can hear what are the things that are there on the ground and what are the evidences they can consider. So it is going to be a long battle ahead in the courts when the matter is heard. But yes, today Varanasi has an atmosphere of sheer celebration because at least on the first point they have won, that there is no bar on the devotees saying this is our temple, let us pray in it. At least they can say that at this stage. Back to you.
You know, but here, Anisha, there's also some clarity needed at this point. Looking at the joyous celebrations, it appears as if, you know, worship will be allowed at that Shringar Gauri complex right from today. Why don't you clarify for us before I slip into a short break on exactly what this verdict means? Does it allow for prayers to take place, for puja to take place immediately?
Absolutely not. And I'm reiterating this, Nabila, absolutely not. There is no order at this stage that will allow anybody to enter that disputed site or offer prayers outside of what is already allowed. At this moment, as the rules stand, women, the devotees of mosque-Shringar Gauri can enter the temple on the Chaturthi of the Vrishchik Navratras only. Whether or not they will be allowed to worship there every day, like which is what they want, is what the court will now decide. So once again, I am repeating this as a responsible media person, that today's the celebrations are because the people who have so far been told that you have no right to ask for anything have been told that yes, you can ask for it, but whether or not you get what you asked for is something that the court will have to hold a trial about.
Absolutely.
So right now the
that's the point that
are about the fact
hope
that they now
been
can say
driven
that,
home.
That we
as
want.
much as we see celebrations, of course, there the Hindu side jubilant after the court has decided that they're going to be hearing this matter further, as they've declared it maintainable under the court of law. Anisha Mathur has been on ground. She's going to bring us all the details and all that joyous celebrations right outside the Varanasi court. But for now, it's time for a short break. News and updates continue.
You are watching India Today.
Many designers have a body-positive model thrown in with a mix of conventional models walking the ramp. They have gender-fluid lines too. But Akshay Sharma is here with a vengeance. His fashion speak is rebellious, questioning binary stereotypes, and there is a strong activism for body positivity, inclusivity and support for the LGBTQIA fraternity. Chetan Nurula with this report.
Every garment has a story to it. Equality is orgasmic. We just like put it out there that we believe in equality. And of course, there are certain topics that we cannot talk about, especially in the current political environment, because it's so volatile and chaotic.
Like the shirt you're wearing right now tells a great story about a woman enjoying her orgasm. But in Indian society, I know and I can tell you, it is frowned upon for a woman to even indulge in such a hedonistic take on her sexuality.
Men having an orgasm is widely acceptable, but women having an orgasm, why is it so, taboo? So I really wanted to put it out there that, just embrace that energy.
I like wearing women's clothes. I mean, stereotypical. Till date, we still call it the men's section and the women's section.
Clothes are genderless, guys.
I know it is genderless, but it's still that the society is going to take time to, like, Aman loves to wear a choli. He loves wearing ghagras. Coco Baluchi recently had an Instagram post wearing a gorgeous sari.
Absolutely.
So Aman was telling me on the show as to how when he was wanting to go to the women's section in a mall and shop there, he was not
like
that there were eyebrows that were getting raised.
I've been subjected to that, and it's kind of frustrating, right? Because all these brands on social media, they want to do all the pride campaigns and everything, and right in their store, they are treating us badly, right? And so, I mean, double face.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
You are watching India Today.
Very good evening and thanks so much for being with us here on India Today. I'm Chaiti Narula joining you with all the top stories. Let's begin with the headlines first this evening. Big win for Hindu side in Gyanvapi legal battle. Varanasi court admits Hindu side's plea. Says Hindu side's plea is maintainable. Next hearing on 22nd of September. Har Har Mahadev chants outside the Varanasi court as the Hindu side rejoices. Muslim side's plea rejected. Likely to move Allahabad High Court. India Today's exclusive scoop on Ayodhya Mandir. The idol of Ram Lalla will be installed in the sanctum on Makar Sankranti in 2024. Showdown over Congress's tweet showing RSS shots on fire. BJP hits back, says Congress will be reduced to ashes too. Amidst the growing chorus for CBI investigation in Sonali Phogat murder case, Goa government finally gives in. Chief Minister Pramod Sawant recommends a CBI probe, says families' demands will be fulfilled. NIA cracks down on wanted gangsters. Raids across 60 locations in India. Gangsters like Lawrence Bishnoi, Goldie Brar on the radar. And it is a big win for the Hindu side in the Gyanvapi legal war. In a victory for the Hindu side, a court in Varanasi on Monday agreed to hear a petition by 5 Hindu women seeking the right to worship inside Gyanvapi Mosque located next to Kashi Vishwanath Temple. Rejecting Anjuman's committee's plea challenging the Hindu worshippers' request, the court has said the case is maintainable. Jubilant scenes and Har Har Mahadev chants broke out in the Varanasi district court premises, visuals of which we are running on your screens at the moment. 5 Hindu women had filed petitions seeking the right to worship mosque-Shringar Gauri on the outer wall of the mosque complex located next to Kashi Vishwanath Temple. The women's petition is going to be heard now on 22nd of September. The Muslim side, however, is set to move the Allahabad High Court.
आज कोर्ट ने हमारे आज कोर्ट ने हमारे सारे आर्गुमेंट्स को मान लिया है. मुस्लिम पक्ष की एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी है. प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट की उनकी जो प्ली थी उसको खारिज कर दिया है. वक्फ एक्ट की प्ली को खारिज कर दिया है. कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सूट मेंटेनेबल है. अब इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 22/9 को होगी और एविडेंस लीड की जाएगी. इशूज
क्या हुआ कोर्ट में आज बताइए.
माननीय न्यायालय ने जो 7 रूल 11 की तहत उन्होंने आपत्ति लगाई थी कि ये जो है 1991 के कानून को बाधित कर रहा है, इसलिए इसको खारिज किया जाए. माननीय न्यायालय ने उनकी आपत्ति को ही खारिज करके ये मामला पोषणीय है, मेंटेनेबल है, ये दावा चलेगा, ऐसा उन्होंने आज मुहर लगा दिया है.
तो अब आगे क्या होगा.
अब आगे की कार्रवाई हम लोग बिल्कुल अब आगे की हम लोग जो है तैयारी करेंगे. अब अगली तमाम जो है ट्रायल चलेगा, उस दावा हम लोगों का अब ये चलेगा न्यायालय में.
जी भाई हम पूछ रहे हैं सर, दावे का जो सुनवाई होगी अब आगे, जो आप लोगों ने याचिका डाली है उसमें दावा जो डाला है उसके और जो सर्वे की जो रिपोर्ट थी उसको कोर्ट का
बिल्कुल सर्वे की रिपोर्ट और पूरा ट्रायल चलेगा. अब ये दावा हमारा मुकदमा चलेगा और आगे जो भी है सब प्रोसेस में चलेगा कोर्ट. इसलिए अब आगे तो अब समय बताएगा कि हम लोग को क्या करना है, क्या एक्शन लेना है.
क्या हुआ सुनवाई में, क्या हुआ सुनवाई में, आपने क्या बोला है थोड़ा डिटेल में बताएंगे.
सुनवाई में उन्होंने जो मुस्लिम पक्ष ने रखा था कि ये 1991 के कानून को बाधित कर रहा है, ये आपका दावा, इसलिए इसको खारिज किया जाए। वक्त की संपत्ति है। और हम लोगों ने जो पक्ष रखा था कि ये कहीं से भी बाधित नहीं हो रहा है, उन्होंने कहा कि 1991 को जो ये कानून है, उस कानून इससे कहीं बाधित नहीं हो रहा है, क्योंकि ये केवल पूजन का जो है, अर्चन का ही मांग कर रहे हैं, पूजा का अधिकार मांग रहे हैं। इसलिए कहते हुए उन्होंने खारिज कर दिया, उनकी आपत्ति को ही खारिज कर दिया है।
जी, फैसला हिंदू पक्ष में।
बिल्कुल फैसला हिंदू पक्ष में है। और हमने कहा था पूर्व में भी कि ये नजीर बनेगा, और आज ये नजीर बना है। 1991 जो है कहीं पूजा पाठ के अधिकार को नहीं रोकता है, और ये हमारा जो दावा है ये पोषणीय है और चलता रहेगा।
जी, तो कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि आप लोगों का, क्योंकि आपने सिर्फ पूजा अर्चना का अधिकार मांगा है, इसलिए पोषणीय है।
बिल्कुल, पूजा का हमने कोई स्टेटस जो है चेंजिंग की बात तो हम लोगों ने किया नहीं है। हम लोग केवल पूजा पाठ के ही अधिकार को मांग रहे थे। और ये वैसे भी जो विवादित परिसर है, जो विवाद धर्मस्थल जो विवादित है, उस पर 1991 का कानून लागू नहीं होता है।
आज फैसले का एक गौरवशाली दिन था। हम पहले व्यक्ति थे जो सर्वे के बाद ये कह दिए कि बाबा मिल गए, और आज ये कह रहे हैं कि आज का विजय, आज का फैसला काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर के शिलान्यास का, बीजारोपण का दिन ये साबित होगा आज का फैसला। और हम हर्षित हैं, हिंदू समाज हर्षित है, कि सारा सनातन धर्म हर्षित है, और पूरा उत्तर प्रदेश हर्षित है।
आज हम लोगों ने इतिहास रच दिया। उन लोग का 7-11 खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में मुकदमा हम लोग जीत गए। अब हम लोग की मुकदमा चलेगा। बहुत खुशी है, आज हम लोग ने इतिहास रच दिया है। अंतर जज साहब ने फैसला सुनाया है, उसके बाद उन लोग का खारिज हो गया, हम लोग के पक्ष में आ गया है।
फैसला हिंदू पक्ष में आया है, हम सबको खुशी है। आज काशी बम बम बोल रहा है।
जिस प्रकार से काशी विश्वनाथ मामले में भगवान विश्वेश्वर महादेव के पक्ष में निर्णय आया है और एक कह लिया गया है, एक माननीय कोर्ट ने माना है इस बात को कि एक केस सुनने योग्य है। अब न्याय मिलेगा, जैसे राम मंदिर में न्याय मिला था, नंदी की तपस्या पूर्ण हुई और निश्चित रूप से वहां पे भव्य विश्वेश्वर भगवान का मंदिर बनेगा।
The first hurdle has been crossed. Now the court will examine the matter on its own merits. We do hope and look forward to a victory for the law, the justice and the truth is with us.
जिस तरीके से अदालत का ये फैसला आया है, मैं अदालत के फैसले का सम्मान करता हूँ, मैं भारतीय अदलिया का एहतराम करता हूँ, मगर मैं बार बार ये बात कह रहा हूँ कि मंदिर, मस्जिद, गुरुद्वारा, इमामबाड़ा, सैनिगाह या चर्च हो, इसको ये सब आस्था के केंद्र हैं। यहाँ के ऊपर इंसान मन की शांति के लिए जाता है, और यहाँ के ऊपर इंसान इसलिए जाता है ताकि उसके जहन को सुकून मिले। यहाँ पर शिवलिंग था कि नहीं था, ये एक अलग विषय है, क्योंकि मस्जिदों के अंदर हौज होते थे, हौज के अंदर फव्वारे होते थे, और फव्वारे को आप शिवलिंग का रंग दे रहे हैं, मेरे ख्याल से ये बिल्कुल गलत है। लिहाजा मंदिर और मस्जिद के नाम पर इस मुल्क के अंदर भाई को भाई से बहुत लड़ा दिया गया। लिहाजा हिंदू मुसलमान आपस में न लड़े, बल्कि हम सब मिलके गरीबी, बेरोजगारी और जहालत से लड़ें।
भी अगली तारीख दी गई है, जाहिर सी बात है दोनों पार्टीज अपनी अपनी बातें रखेंगी, और जो मस्जिद की साइड है वो भी अपनी दलीलें पूरी ताकत के साथ रखेंगे। और आज से नहीं बल्कि सैकड़ों सालों से मस्जिद में नमाज होती आ रही है, वहाँ पे मस्जिद कायम है और लोग वहाँ नमाज अदा कर रहे हैं, और आज भी नमाज अदा हो रही है, इसमें कोई भी शक व शुबहे की गुंजाइश नहीं है। तो लिहाजा वहाँ पे नमाज अदा की जाती रहेगी। उस सिलसिले में हम समझते हैं कि कोर्ट ने ऐसी कोई बात नहीं कही है जिससे कि कोई नमाज अदा करने पे सवालिया निशान लग रहा हो। लेकिन बहरहाल जो भी ये केस चल रहा है, इस केस को अदालत में ही पूरी ताकत के साथ लड़ा जाएगा।
All right, so those were the reactions that were coming in soon after the verdict. Now, the big question that arises is, what next in the Gyanvapi case? Let's bring those points for you. These are the quick pointers. Number one, the court will go ahead. Court's go ahead is coming for the arguments to begin. Number two, the arguments are going to be heard on the merit of the case. Number three, the hearing on plea to worship Shringar Gauri to start now. And number four, the hearing on survey findings to begin. And next hearing is going to be on 22nd of September. And the Muslim side now may perhaps move the Allahabad High Court too. The Hindu petitioners are overwhelmed. They danced, they distributed sweets and celebrated this big win. Take a look.
अब ये बताइए कि कोर्ट रूम के भीतर जब आप लोग मौजूद थी और जज केस फैसला सुना रहे थे तो आप लोगों का मनोभाव क्या था? कोर्ट रूम के भीतर क्या?
कोर्ट में जो भी फैसला होता था हम लोग सुनते थे और हम लोग को पूरी उम्मीद थी फैसला हम लोग के हक में ही आएगा, क्योंकि साक्ष्य हम लोग के पास थे, उन लोग के पास कोई नहीं था। वो लोग कोर्ट का समय व्यर्थ कर रहे थे, कोर्ट को गुमराह कर रहे थे और हमेशा सत्य की विजय। आज जब जज महोदय ने कहा कि ये मेंटेनेबल है तो का खारिज कर दिया गया, इसलिए आज हम लोग की बहुत बड़ी जीत है। और हम लोग अभी तो ये झांकी है, दर्शन अभी बाकी है।
अभी तो झांकी है बाबा, दर्शन बाकी है। ये बाबा भोलेनाथ माँ श्रृंगार गौरी की जीत हुई है, उनके साथ साथ पूरे भारतवासियों की जीत हुई है।
आगे आप करेंगे?
आगे अभी तो खुशी मनाएंगे, अभी तो पहले खुशी का एहसास होना लीजिए। मान पूर्णा भैरो बाबा रहा न कोई बाकी, कि बम बम बोल रहा है, कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, हर हर महादेव।
हिंदू पक्ष के फेवर में डिसीजन आया है जिसको लेकर यहाँ खुशियां मनाई जा रही हैं। कोर्ट के बाहर से रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं हम, आपको दिखाएंगे। यहाँ मिठाइयाँ बांटी जा रही हैं, हमारे साथ नजर आएंगे तो ये देखेंगे कि किस तरह से यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि मिठाइयाँ बट रही हैं। लोग यहाँ पर हर्षोल्लास में हैं, कहीं ना कहीं खुशियां मना रही हैं। देखिए एक दूसरे को मिठाइयाँ बांटी जा रही हैं। क्या लगता है? खुशी
बहुत ऐतिहासिक खुशी है, बहुत
क्या कहेंगे इस पूरा आप जिस तरह से मिठाइयाँ बांट रहे हैं?
बहुत दिल प्रसन्न है कि आज बाबा के दिन, सोमवार का दिन है, महादेव की नगरी में बाबा का फैसला आया। इसके लिए इन जितने अधिवक्ता लोग हैं सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
ठीक है सब जो हुआ तो सही हुआ है। हाँ यस जी हाँ। इस मिठाई के क्या
मिठाई के ये मायने है, जो मुस्लिम पक्ष पहले लोग फवारा साबित करते थे, हमारा शिवजी बाबा को उनको स्थापित मतलब ये जिला न्यायालय ने उसको मोहर लगा दिया कि हाँ ये शिवलिंग है।
All right, we'll get you more details on this. We'll be getting you more reactions as well on this. Celebrations on your screens right there. Because now you see the Hindu petitioners are absolutely overwhelmed. Dancing there, you can see on your visuals, they're distributing sweets as well. Celebrating this big win. And earlier, like we said, what next in this particular case, that the court will go ahead for the arguments to begin. There's a court go ahead for it. The arguments are going to be heard on the merits of the case and the hearing on plea to worship Shringar Gauri to begin as well. Anisha Mathur, our legal correspondent, now joins us for the very latest. Anisha, if you could encapsulate the top points from the verdict and tell us, for our viewers who have just tuned in, everything that they need to know.
Well, Chati, the biggest point for which the Hindu petitioners are celebrating right now is the fact that for several years they've been told that they can't raise this kind of a claim. But now the court has drawn a distinction. The court has said very clearly that the petition that have...
तो पूरा देश देख ही रहा है। इस वक्त हमारी गाड़ी में मौजूद हैं रेखा जी हैं और लक्ष्मी जी हैं। जरा इन लोगों से बातचीत करते हैं, लेकिन सबसे पहले ये कुछ सुनाना चाहती हैं। आज ये इतनी ज्यादा खुश हैं, भजन कीर्तन और डांस में ही इनका पूरा वक्त जा रहा है। क्या सुनाना चाहती हैं आप?
मैं भोले बाबा का भजन सुना रहा हूँ, थोड़ा मतलब कई ठो सुना दूंगी। मायन पूर्णा भैरो बाबा रहा न कोई बाकी, कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है शीतला के शीतल छैया में, दुर्गा जी के अंगनैया में, अरे अर्जी सबे लगावेला बनकर इनकर दासी, कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, हरदम मस्त रहेला भोला तो हर काशी नगरी, हरदम मस्त रहेला भोला तो हर काशी नगरी, गंगा मैया के अचरा फैलल सागरी, गंगा मैया के अचरा फैलल सागरी, हरदम मस्त रहेला भोला तो काशी नगरी। बाबा विश्वनाथ का मंदिर मनवा सबके भावेला, देशवा और विदेशवा से दर्शनवा के सब आवेला। इनके शरण में सब रख देला अपन पगड़ी, इनके शरण में सब रख देला अपन पगड़ी, हरदम मस्त रहेला भोला तो
गला भी बैठ गया है
गरीब।
आज की ये जो जीत है आप लोगों की, संघर्ष की जीत है, ये
बहुत संघर्ष की जीत है। ज्ञानवापी के मंदिर में हवन, ज्ञानवापी के मंदिर में हवन, हवन औघड़दान औघड़दानी, हाय हाय औघड़दानी। बाबा दुआरे नंदी पुकारे, बाबा दुआर सब भक्त पुकारे, नंदी के दर्शन दे दा औघड़दानी, हाय हाय औघड़दानी। खाके धतूरा भांग भोले बाबा नाच रहे, खाके धतूरा भांग भोले बाबा नाच रहे। अरे ब्रह्मा भी
ठीक है जी गौरव, जी गौरव क्या बोलना चाहते
के साथ ज्ञानवापी का फैसला हो जाए, एकजुटता और सम्मान के साथ ही मथुरा का फैसला हो जाए। अब आप लोग पूछिए।
विपक्ष जो है, मतलब मुस्लिम पक्ष जो है, वो कह रहे हैं कि वो हाईकोर्ट जाएंगे इस फैसले के खिलाफ।
उनको अधिकार है हाईकोर्ट जाने का, और वो इस अधिकार का पूरा उपयोग करने का अधिकार रखते हैं, इसलिए हम उनको इस अधिकार से नहीं रोक सकते। और जब बात अदालत में है तो सबूतों पर लड़ाई होगी, तो फिर सबूत दोनों पक्ष प्रस्तुत करेंगे, या तो बाहर बैठ के समझौता हो जाए, जो मैं शुरू से कह रही थी कि अयोध्या मथुरा काशी पे बाहर बैठ के समझौता कर लो, क्योंकि ये डिस्प्यूट ऑफ लैंड है। डिस्प्यूट ऑफ लैंड में कोर्ट मान्यता देता है अगर आपने बाहर समझौता कर लिया और दोनों पक्ष आ गए कि हाँ हमने समझौता कर लिया है, तो माननीय कोर्ट तो स्वयं सुझाव देता है कि इस ऐसे मामले को आप बाहर सुलझा लीजिए। जब नहीं सुलझाते हैं और हम कोर्ट में पहुंच जाते हैं, तब माननीय कोर्ट किसी के अधिकार को रोक नहीं सकता, तो इसलिए वो अपने अधिकार का उपयोग करेंगे। मैं आज भी यही कहूँगी कि बेहतरी इसी में है कि बाहर बैठ करके मथुरा और काशी, मैं अकेले काशी की बात नहीं करूँगी, क्योंकि काशी में हमारे ज्योतिर्लिंग हैं, काशी विश्वनाथ विश्वेश्वर संपूर्ण विश्व के स्वामी, काशी शिव के त्रिशूल पर टिकी हुई नगरी है, और काशी में गंगा का भी अद्भुत स्वरूप है, और इधर मथुरा जो है वो भगवान श्री कृष्ण की जन्मभूमि है। तो मैं तो चाहती हूँ कि मुस्लिम समुदाय ही आगे बढ़ के कह दे, ये बात मैंने उस दिन भाषण में भी कही कि हिंदुओं का दिल इतना बड़ा है कि अगर मुस्लिम समुदाय ने ये तीनों स्थान में, उस भाषण की कॉपी निकलवाने वाली मैं आपको भिजवाऊंगी, कि अगर आपने आगे बढ़ कर के मुस्लिम समुदाय ने कह दिया कि ये 3 स्थान हिंदुओं के, तो बाकी किसी मस्जिद को क्षति ना पहुँच पावे, इसके लिए हिंदू समाज ही लट्ठे लेके खड़ा हो जाएगा। लेकिन कम से कम थोड़ी सी तो दरिया दिली दिखाइए, उनकी भावनाओं का थोड़ा सम्मान करिए। लेकिन चूंकि वो नरसिम्हा राव जी की सरकार थी, उन्होंने नहीं माना, विधेयक में हमारे संशोधन नहीं लिए, तो हमने बायकॉट कर दिया था। मैं अभी भी चाहती हूँ कि वो रास्ता निकले, वही रास्ता।
दीदी इसका निपटारा जल्दी होना चाहिए, राम मंदिर की तरह खिंच गया, मान लीजिए कि हाई कोर्ट जाएगा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाएगा, कि यही काम रह गया है।
मैं कोर्ट को कोई टर्म डिक्टेट नहीं कर सकती, और मामला खिंचता है कि नहीं खिंचता है, सब कोर्ट को ही फैसला करना पड़ता है। मैं तो इतना कह सकती हूँ कि बहुत शांति से हो गया था समाधान, नहीं तो ऐसा लगता था जो माहौल बनाया गया था वो मैं कभी भूलूंगी नहीं। 6 दिसंबर की घटना के बाद पूरा देश शांत था, अचानक कांग्रेसियों को और वामपंथियों को लगा कि इतनी शांति क्यों है, तो उन्होंने भोपाल का ही आपको स्मरण होगा, 6 दिसंबर की घटना हुई, 7 दिसंबर को शांति रही, और 8 दिसंबर को कांग्रेसी और वामपंथी काली पट्टी निकाल के जुलूस निकालने निकले और दंगे शुरू हो गए। बिल्कुल प्रायोजित दंगे थे, कांग्रेस के द्वारा, समाजवादियों के द्वारा और वामपंथियों के द्वारा, कुछ नहीं होने वाला था। अभी भी जब सर तन से जुदा, सर तन से जुदा, ये बातें जब शुरू हुई काशी के मुद्दे पे नूपुर शर्मा के बोलने के बाद, उसके बाद एक भी नहीं बोला कि अब मुझे यहाँ डर लग रहा है। जो फिल्मी हीरो कह रहे थे कि हमें भारत में डर लगता है, अचानक उन्हें डर लगना बंद हो गया। जो पुरस्कार वापस कर रहे थे, उन्हें अपने पुरस्कार अपने हृदय से लगा करके ही रख लिए कि वेरी गुड, बहुत अच्छा हो रहा है कि लोगों के सिर काटे जा रहे हैं। अब मुझे पूछना है जे आमिर खान से, जे शाहरुख खान से, जे सैफ अली खान से, कि तुमको अब डर नहीं लगा जब सर तन से जुदा की बात हुई? कहाँ चला गया तुम्हारा डर? ऐसे ही लोग हैं जो देश का माहौल ख़राब कर रहे हैं। मेरी आज भी ये धारणा है कि फिल्म स्टार्स को पॉलिटिकल कमेंट नहीं करने चाहिए, क्योंकि हर पार्टी में उनके फैन होते हैं। मैं उत्तर में आप लोगों को हमेशा लंबा ही देती हूँ, क्योंकि शॉर्ट में मैंने कह दिया जो मुझे कहना था।
Anisha Mathur is with us. Anisha, there are a lot of celebrations right there, given the fact that this has been a big win for the Hindu side. As far as the Muslim side is concerned, what next?
Well, for the Muslim side, of course, the next step for them is going to be to go to the High Court, to the Allahabad High Court. But I'm also going to take you to Mr. Advocate Hari Shankar Jain. Sir, Muslim side has said that they will go to the High Court. What happens next, however, in this case? Court has said that it is maintainable. There are issues regarding right to worship, access to the temple, access to the Shringar Gauri temple. What is the next step now?
देखिए, Muslim party will go to High Court. Welcome. I will follow them, and I will meeting them there and welcoming there, rather. And I think the finding given by the court cannot be set aside. Very strong finding has been given. On issues has been given, applying law has been given, and I've given cited number of cases by the appellate court, and it says that the suit under Section 9 is maintainable. In this case particularly, this provisions of place of worship is not applicable because Hindu puja was going on up to 1993, and Mulayam Singh government, due to political reasons, ousted Hindus from worshipping the pujari. That is Dasji. He was also ousted. Shringar Gauri puja was stopped.
So at the moment, the issue is of the Shringar Gauri temple alone. But when you were arguing the matter, you had also raised the issue of the larger temple premises. But that matter is still pending before the High Court. What is the status there, sir?
No, perhaps you are not well acquainted with all the facts. इस केस में not only Shringar Gauri, but different deities which were installed there, which were being worshipped by devotees till 1993. That issue is there. The issue of Lord Adi Visheshwar is there. The issue of applicability of Kashi Vishwanath is concerned. That is also there, and there are very wide issues are there. And the question is how this so-called mosque can continue there. It is not a mosque.
So, as you can see, the Hindu side, of course, is celebrating. The Muslim side has very clearly said that they will be approaching the High Court at Allahabad to appeal against this order by the District Court of Varanasi. Remember, the biggest reason for celebrations for the Hindu side is that for such a long time they had been told that this petition is not maintainable, that they cannot raise a claim about the Shringar Gauri temple or anything else in that premises. But now with the court saying that the claim can be raised, that the claim can be considered by the court, it is now the first step in a long legal battle that will be carried on now, not just here in the Varanasi court, but also in the Allahabad High Court, and possibly could reach the Supreme Court as well. Back to you.
So this looks like a long, contentious, divisive battle, legal battle while at it ahead, Anisha?
Well, yes, Chetty, most definitely we are going to see a very, very long legal battle in this issue. But today in Varanasi, there's an atmosphere of celebration. The lawyers for the Hindu side are saying
Anisha, hold on right there. I'm coming back to you, but we're also dipping into how political leaders reacted after the big win for the Hindu side. Here's a look.
काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर और श्रृंगार गौरी माता के मंदिर मामले की जो सुनवाई चल रही थी, जिसमें न्यायालय ने इस सुनवाई को सुनने योग्य मानना है, इसका मैं स्वागत करता हूं। और बाकी न्यायिक प्रक्रिया जैसे चलनी है वैसे चलती रहेगी, लेकिन सभी पक्षों से मैं यह जरूर अपील करूंगा कि इस फैसले का मैं भी स्वागत करता हूं, सब लोग स्वागत करें और किसी भी प्रकार से इस विषय को लेकर के कोई विवाद उत्पन्न करने का काम ना करें।
किस तरीके से देख रहे हैं? जीत लग रही है आपको जिस तरीके से पूरा मामला चला?
हम माननीय न्यायालय के निर्णय का स्वागत करते हैं और बहुत अच्छा निर्णय है और मुझे लगता है कि इससे देश के लोगों की जो भावनाएं थीं उनको बहुत आदर मिला है, सम्मान मिला है, सभी लोग बहुत खुश हैं और माननीय न्यायालय का जो भी निर्णय होगा हम लोग उसको पालन करेंगे।
22 सितंबर को आगे मामला सुना जाएगा। पूछनीता पर तो पूरी बात हो गई, लेकिन अब जो सर्वे में चीजें सामने आई थी, क्या मंदिर में क्या था,
ये सब माननीय न्यायालय का काम है, लेकिन हमारा दायित्व ये है कि उत्तर प्रदेश में हम कानून के राज को स्थापित रखें, किसी को भी डिस्टर्ब करने की अनुमति न हो और हर तरह से हम लोग तैयार रहें। सभी पुलिस प्रशासन को, अधिकारियों को सतर्कता बरतते हुए आगे बढ़ने के लिए कहा गया है। हर स्थिति में उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज सुदृढ़ रूप से स्थापित रहेगा।
आगे चूंकि सुनवाई चलेगी, आपको लगता है कि इस मामले को जल्द से जल्द सुन के निपटान किया जाए?
अब ये माननीय न्यायालय का विषय है, लेकिन हम लोग अपने पक्ष में सबको कहते हैं कि उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून का राज कायम रहेगा।
इस तरीके से सवाल उठ रहे थे सर्वेक्षण को लेकर के भी, सरकार भी चूंकि इसमें एक भूमिका में है, आपको लगता है कि वो चीजों पे जवाब आ चुके हैं?
देखिए, जिस ढंग से ये फैसला है, लोग बहुत खुश हैं प्रदेश के और अब माननीय न्यायालय के आगे वाले निर्णय का भी हम लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं। जो भी निर्णय आएगा उसका हम पालन करेंगे।
साफ तौर पर उत्तर प्रदेश के उप मुख्यमंत्री ने सीधे तौर पर इस फैसले का स्वागत किया और साथ ही कहा है कि आने वाले समय में सरकार आने वाले तैयारियों को लेकर के और सीधे तौर पर सरकार हर फैसले को मानने के लिए पूरी तरीके से स्वागत करती है और आने वाले समय में इसमें कार्रवाई और तेज होगी।
उनमें भरोसा करते हैं, कानून पर मुझे भरोसा है, क्योंकि हम कहाँ जाएंगे? मेरे लिए मक्का मदीना तो है नहीं, हमारे लिए तो सब कुछ यही काशी मथुरा अयोध्या ही है, तो हम यहाँ छोड़ करके कहाँ जाएंगे? लेकिन कानून को भी हम सम्मान करते हैं, कानून के साथ। नंदी की तपस्या सब दिन समाप्त हुआ है, देर है अंधेर नहीं है।
कोर्ट के आदेश पर यह कहा गया था, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह आदेश दिया था कि मैजिस्ट्रियल जो कोर्ट है वो इसको सुने पहले और ये तय करे कि सुनने के लायक है या नहीं है। अब अगर मैजिस्ट्रियल कोर्ट कह रहा है कि ये बात सुनने के लायक है तो जाहिर है कि वो सुनी जाएगी और उसके बाद फैसला जो कुछ भी होगा वो बाद में होगा। पहले से ये बिल्कुल तय था कि कुछ एक फरीक ये समझ रहा था कि उसके हक़ में ही फैसला होगा और उसके हक़ में ही फैसला हो गया है। उन्होंने ये ऐलान किया था कि हम एक गौरव यात्रा उस सिलसिले में निकालेंगे और बग़ैर परमिशन के उन्होंने कल ये ऐलान किया था और आज फैसला आने के बाद वो कहते हैं कि हम परमिशन निकाल के ऐसा करेंगे। ये उत्तर प्रदेश में आग लगाने की साजिश है और उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार इसके लिए जिम्मेदार होगी अगर उसने पहले से इक़दाम नहीं किए तो।
A trishul, a swastik symbol, broken idol feet and bell carved in stone. India today has accessed 8 hours of videography conducted inside the Gyanvapi Mosque premises. Take a look.
A trishul, a swastik symbol, broken idol feet, a bell carved in stone, Hindu scriptures engraved on walls. Never before seen images of the videography inside the Gyanvapi Mosque complex in Varanasi. India today has accessed 8 hours of unedited images of the court-mandated survey team carefully filming and taking still pictures inside the Gyanvapi premises. The Hindu side strongly insists that these pictures prove their point that a temple was raised on the orders of Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to construct a mosque.
मैं ईश्वर को धन्यवाद दे रहा हूँ कि उन्होंने मुझे इतनी शक्ति दी कि जो कुछ लिखवाया उन्होंने मुझसे सब अक्षरशः सही है और वो हिंदू मंदिर तोड़कर तथाकथित मस्जिद बनाई गई, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं रह गया है।
The pictures answer some questions but raise many more. Do temple scriptures exist on mosque walls? Is a trishul, trident of Lord Shiv, found even in mosques? Is a swastik, an auspicious Hindu symbol, found engraved in mosques? Is this a Shivling or a fountain at the Wazukhana? The Muslim respondents have hit back saying that the circulation of these images in violation of court orders was to whip up sentiments and raise public opinion in favor of a temple.
ये वीडियो वायरल हुआ जो गलत हुआ है और अदालत के और मानना है अदालत के आदेश के खिलाफ हुआ है।
AIMIM MP Asaduddin Owaisi came out all guns blazing, alleging that the Places of Worship Act 1991 was being blatantly violated.
आप लीक कर लो, कुछ भी कर लो। 91 की एक्ट के तहत 15 अगस्त 1947 को मस्जिद थी, मस्जिद है और रहेगी।
But the images have raised certain questions about the existence of a temple, prompting the Hindu side to seek access to what they insist is a Shivling to have their fundamental right to worship. With Samad Srivastav and Kumar Abhishek in Varanasi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The big India Today exclusive on the Ayodhya Ram Mandir. India Today has exclusively learned that the idol of Ram Lalla, the infant god, will be installed at the temple sanctum on the day of Makar Sankranti 2024. The construction of Ram Temple is 40% complete. The entire cost of construction is expected to be 1,800 crore rupees. There will be 7 more temples that will be constructed within the Ram Mandir premises. The timing of the installation of Ram Lalla idol is crucial as it comes in January 2024, just ahead of the general elections. The construction of the Ram Mandir has been one of the key promises of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
It is a definitely promise of the BJP and Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But at the same time, this is a news. This would be a happy hour for the nation, because Ram Mandir is not only a religious symbol, or Bhagwan Ram is not merely a god, but he is a symbol of an ideal king. It also symbolizes India's soft power all over the world. Therefore, I consider that this would be a great happening in the civilizational history of India. It is not only the national history of India or modern Indian history. After 400 years long battle and the dreams of the Hindus to restore their faith, it has been successful, and the BJP has the credit that what it promised to the people of India through its dialogue and struggle for Ram Temple, and by the verdict of the court, when the nation accepted the BJP's old aspiration, idealism, ideas and objectives, I think that historically this should be remembered as the golden letter day in the civilization history of India.
Well, we were slipping into a very short commercial break. On that note, news and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us on India Today.
You are watching India Today.
Physical assaults of security guards in Delhi NCR is on the rise. In yet another shocking video from Noida that went viral, a woman was seen slapping a guard over a petty issue. Here's a detailed report.
These are India's new monsters. Power-drunk and brazenly obnoxious who target the poor and less fortunate. Incidents of apartment owners abusing and assaulting security guards, liftmen and maids are on the rise. In the latest, a woman resident identified as Sudipta Das was caught slapping a security guard in a posh Noida housing society on camera. The guard was slapped after a minor altercation between the woman, who was a professor. She was arrested and then released on bail. However, this is not an isolated incident. On August 14th, a woman trashed a residential society security guard in Agra while hurling abuses at him for allegedly ill-treating stray dogs. The security guard, who had retired from the army, was beaten up by Dimpy Mahendru with a lathi. Then came the assault and abuse of a security guard in Noida by a woman for alleged delay in the opening of a gate by one of them. The woman, Bhavya Roy, a lawyer by profession, had hit the guard while hurling filthy abuses. On August 30th, Varun Nath, a Gurugram resident in a high-rise society, slapped and abused a lift operator after being trapped in the elevator. In Ranchi, suspended BJP leader Seema Patra was accused of torturing her tribal domestic help and branding her with a hot iron. It is time the obnoxious Indian is taken to task. With Arvind Ojha in Noida, Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Imagine waking up to a new catastrophe every day. The world that we live in is leading towards a future where in a year there will be 560 catastrophes. This is not a plot of a horror movie, but instead this will be our reality, according to the UN. Yes, the UN has said if we don't act on climate change now, by the year 2030, we will have 560 catastrophes a year. Report by the UN paints a grim picture. It says most disasters would be weather-related, like fires and floods. But many will be hazards such as pandemics or chemical accidents. The scientific report said climate change is increasing the magnitude, frequency, duration and severity of climate-related hazards. It has become a major driver for disaster losses and development achievement setbacks. We currently are experiencing many heat waves. The report says that by the year 2030, the number of heat waves will be 3 times of what it was in 2001. The scariest part is this. The report talked not just about climate disasters, it looked at COVID-19, economic meltdowns, food shortage, all triggered by climate change. Decisions made by humans are too narrow and have been over-optimistic about the risk of the potential disasters. This leaves the world unprepared. The chief of the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, Mami Mizutori, said if we don't get ahead of the curve, it will reach a point where we cannot manage the consequences of the disaster. According to the World Meteorological Organization, India's average annual loss in 2020 was around $87 billion. This was due to floods, cyclones and droughts. In 1990, disasters cost the world about $70 billion a year. Cut to now, they cost more than $170 billion. This is after adjusting for inflation, and it doesn't include the indirect costs. Amina J. Mohammed, UN Deputy Secretary General, said the world needs to do more to incorporate disaster risk in how we live, build and invest, which is setting humanity on a spiral of self-destruction. We must turn our collective complacency to action. Not just this, but the Asia-Pacific region suffers the highest damage. The region loses an average of 1.6% of their GDP annually to disasters. Climate change demands action now.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Watching India Today.
Breaking news just coming in. Delhi police has issued fresh summons to Jacqueline Fernandez to appear on 14th of September. That's the latest coming in. We'll get you more details in moments from now in the Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scam. Delhi police issues fresh summons to actor Jacqueline Fernandez. Actor Jacqueline Fernandez must appear on 14th of September. Arvind Oja is breaking the story. Arvind, इस केस में तहकीकात कहां तक पहुंची है? दिल्ली पुलिस ने अभी फ्रेश समन इशू किया है एक्ट्रेस जैकलीन फर्नांडिस को और 14 सितंबर उन्हें दिल्ली पुलिस ने बुलाया गया है। आप और क्या जानकारी दे सकते हैं?
देखिए, ये तीसरी बार सम्मन किया है दिल्ली पुलिस की इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफेंस विंग ने। पहला सम्मन 29 अगस्त को किया गया था। जैकलीन उस वक्त भी ईओडब्ल्यू के सामने पेश नहीं हुई। उसके बाद जो दूसरा सम्मन था वो 12 सितंबर को यानी 12 सितंबर को किया गया था। 12 सितंबर के लिए उस दिन भी जैकलीन नहीं आई। अब ये थर्ड सम्मन है जैकलीन फर्नांडिस को। 14 सितंबर को जैकलीन फर्नांडिस को ईओडब्ल्यू के सामने पेश होना होगा। जो सुकेश चंद्रशेखर का केस था जिसमें दिल्ली के तिहाड़ जेल से 100 करोड़ से ज्यादा की चीटिंग की थी, उस मामले में जैकलीन फर्नांडिस से दिल्ली पुलिस ईओडब्ल्यू की टीम पूछताछ करना चाहती है। इसके पहले नूरा फतेही से ईओडब्ल्यू की टीम ने तकरीबन 6 घंटे तक पूछताछ की थी, लेकिन जैकलीन फर्नांडिस को बैक टू बैक सम्मन किए गए। जैकलीन फर्नांडिस अपने प्रोफेशनल काम का हवाला देते हुए ईओडब्ल्यू के सामने पेश नहीं हुई, लेकिन अब उनको 15 सितंबर को हर हाल में ईओडब्ल्यू के सामने पेश होना होगा।
Thank you, Arvind, for joining us with the very latest details on this breaking news that's coming in. We've got some more breaking news coming in. We'll have to cut straight across to it. Breaking news just coming in. Sources tell India Today Home Ministry approved CBI probe in the Sonali death case. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant wrote to the... All right, let's go to that breaking news, please. The next one that is coming. There you go. Sources have told India Today Home Ministry has approved CBI probe in the Sonali death case. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant had written to the Ministry of Home Affairs seeking an investigation by the CBI. That's the latest coming in. CBI will now be investigating the Sonali Fogat death case. The sources are indicating that at the moment. Top sources have revealed this to India Today that the Home Ministry has just approved the CBI probe in the Sonali Fogat death case. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant also wrote to the Ministry of Home Affairs seeking an investigation by the CBI.
Our reporter will join us in moments from now to get us the latest as far as the Sonali death files are concerned. Sources have told India Today that the Home Ministry has approved a CBI probe in the Sonali Phogat death case. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant wrote to the Ministry of Home Affairs seeking an investigation by the CBI, after which the Home Ministry approved a CBI probe in the Sonali Phogat death case. That's what the indication given by sources is at the moment. Source-based information trickling in as far as the death of Sonali Phogat is concerned. The CBI will now be taking over the case according to our sources. That's the latest coming in. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant has gone ahead and asked for a CBI probe. There was a continuous demand from the people of Haryana, Sonali Phogat's family members as well. There was a continuous demand and relentless demand on this, and finally, sources indicate this has happened. The Congress party has fired fresh salvo at BJP and RSS. Congress has tweeted a picture of RSS shots on fire. Congress says the Bharat Jodo Yatra will free India from the shackles of hate. Adds that it will reach the goal of undoing damage done by BJP and RSS step by step. Meanwhile, BJP fired back at the Congress party, saying it was lighting fires in the country. BJP MP Tejasvi Surya has said that the fire that Congress lit in the past has burned them in most of India and is continuing to burn states like Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. Sambit Patra called Bharat Jodo Yatra Bharat Jalao Yatra and demanded that Congress take down the photograph, as he claimed it instigated violence, putting the lives of RSS workers at risk.
This was tweeted by the Congress party today morning for their Bharat Jodo Yatra. This is nothing but instigating people for violence.
See, the trouble is the RSS and the BJP is not used to aggressive responses from the Congress. When the Congress gives an aggressive response, जब हम आक्रामक होते हैं तब वो पीछे हट जाते हैं. तो ये अगर वो आक्रामक होंगे, हम डबल आक्रामक होंगे.
By tweeting this photo, by sending this message, Rahul Gandhi, do you want violence in this country? Do you want people to burn each other? Do you want people to burn the people who follow RSS or BJP's ideology? Rahul Gandhi, ये भारत जोड़ो आंदोलन नहीं है, ये भारत तोड़ो और आग जलाओ आंदोलन है.
Those who stoke the fires of hatred, those who stokes the fire of bigotry and prejudice, must be prepared to take some things back in the same coin.
By tweeting this photo, by sending this message, Rahul Gandhi, do you want violence in this country? Do you want people to burn each other? Do you want people to burn the people who follow RSS or BJP's ideology? Rahul Gandhi, ये भारत जोड़ो आंदोलन नहीं है, ये भारत तोड़ो और आग जलाओ आंदोलन है.
Whatever the RSS say, they have absolutely no history in making the idea of India. Their Rath Yatra was for dividing India. The Bharat Jodo Yatra is for uniting India.
I would like to appeal to the Congress party yet again, very sternly, that this is not the right message that any political party should send. Indian politics has no place for violence. हिंदुस्तान की राजनीति में हिंसा के लिए कोई स्थान नहीं. इसलिए इस प्रकार के हिंसक पोस्टों को आप नीचे उतारें, तुरंत इसे खारिज करें.
ऐसा है कि भारत को जोड़ने का काम कोई भी करेगा तो अच्छी बात है, लेकिन जोड़ेंगे किससे? तिरस्कार से या प्रेम से? एक तो हेट्रेड से आप जोड़ना चाहते हैं क्या? हेट्रेड वो पाल रखे हैं बहुत पहले से. और उनके बाप दादा ने भी संघ का बहुत तिरस्कार किया, अपनी सारी ताकत के साथ संघ को रोकने का प्रयत्न किया। दो बार भी बिना कारण प्रतिबंध लादे गए, संघ रुका नहीं है, लगातार बढ़ते रहा है।
There's also a dosa war raging on in Bengaluru. The political war erupted after Congress released a video of BJP MP Tejasvi Surya allegedly eating dosa as the Karnataka capital was ravaged by floods. The MP in turn hit back at the Congress party. He tweeted saying the party had promised to send masala dosa parcel to his residence, but he was yet to receive it. Tejasvi taunted the Congress saying they cannot deliver a dosa properly and they dream of delivering good governance. In response, the Congress delivered 10 types of dosas to the Bengaluru MP.
ತರ್ಪಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಮಗೂ ಅನುಮಾನ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅವರು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನಗರದ ಕಚೇರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗೂ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಅವರು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಳೆ ಬಂದು ಇವತ್ತು ಜನ ಸಂತ್ರಸ್ತರಾಗಿದ್ದು ಸಹ ಜನಗಳ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆನ ಅವರು ಆಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಕಚೇರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರವಾಹ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿದೆ. ಅವರು ಬರೀ ಬೇರೆ ಹೊರ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುತ್ತೋದು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ನೇನಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಪಾಪ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ದೋಸೆ ತಿನ್ನಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಸೆ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತು ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಅವರ ಮನೆ ಕಚೇರಿ ಗಿರಿನಗರಕ್ಕೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಯಂತ್ರ ಮೂಲಕ ಇವತ್ತು ಅಧಿಕೃತವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ತಿದ್ದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು.
Slipping to a very short commercial break here on India Today. When we return, big win for Hindu side in the Gyanvapi legal battle. This and more in just moments from now.
You are watching India Today.
Delhi government versus LG war is only exploding by the day as Delhi Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena has approved a CBI probe in an alleged bus scam. The probe is against alleged corruption in the procurement of 1,000 low-floor buses by the DTC. A complaint addressed to LG in June had highlighted the appointment of the Minister of Transport as the chairman of the Committee for Tendering and Procurement of Buses by DTC in a premeditated manner. Here's a report.
First, Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain embroiled in the Hawala case. Then Delhi Education Minister Manish Sisodia facing the heat over the liquor scam. Now Delhi Transport Minister Kailash Gehlot getting caught in the bus tender scam allegations. Another mega center versus AAP clash over another alleged scam by the Kejriwal government. The Delhi LG has given nod for CBI probe into complaints of irregularities in the purchase of 1,000 DTC buses by the Kejriwal government. The Delhi Transport Minister is accused of getting appointed to the panel illegally and fixing tenders.
कहते थे कि दिल्ली में 11,000 से ज्यादा DTC बस देंगे. बस तो नहीं आई, लेकिन जो मामला सामने आया है 1,000 लो फ्लोर बसेस का है.
दिल्ली में आम आदमी पार्टी सरकार एक तरह से दिल्ली के टैक्स पेयर के पैसे को उन्होंने मजाक बनाया है, लूटा है और मिसयूज किया है. जो अपराध उन्होंने किया है इसकी सजा उनको जरूर मिलनी चाहिए.
ये बहुत बड़ा घोटाला है, हजारों करोड़ रुपए का. इसको आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार लगातार दबाने की कोशिश कर रही है और जिस तरह से एक कंपनी विशेष को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए लगातार 2018 से केजरीवाल सरकार के मंत्री श्री कैलाश गहलोत उसमें एक कनाइवेंस के साथ उसमें जुड़े हुए हैं.
AAP was quick to rubbish charges, claiming that the tenders were cancelled and the Delhi government did not buy any bus and pointed fingers at the LG.
इस मामले के अंदर एक भी बस नहीं खरीदी गई, एक भी. इसके अंदर टेंडर प्रक्रिया के अंदर कोई इंक्वायरी हुई और सरकार ने कहा जब तक इंक्वायरी होगी टेंडर प्रोसेस को रोक दिया जाएगा, हम एक बस नहीं खरीदेंगे. आप पूरी इंक्वायरी कर लो. मगर
भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नुमाइंदे दिल्ली में एलजी साहब, वीके सक्सेना जी, सब लोग सुबह से फिर से एक्टिव हो गए कि किसी तरह से आम आदमी पार्टी पे कोई झूठा सच्चा आरोप जल्दी से लगा दिया जाए.
Yet another Kejriwal minister facing graft heat, AAP crying vendetta and the BJP firing corruption salvo. The Delhi dangle getting fiercer by the day. Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.
Listening to music puts you in a good mood, but have you ever heard of music that gets you high? In a never-ending quest to get high or feel better, people are listening to binaural beats to mellow their minds. A study shows that many have been trying binaural beats as a form of therapy or even an intoxicant. The term binaural means two sounds, and binaural recording without the beats refers to a kind of stereo recording wherein the listener feels totally surrounded by the musicians. Everyday sounds range from 250 to about 6,000 Hz. Binaural beats are usually below 1,000 Hz, which is in the low range of average human hearing. Hector Orozco Perez, an author of a recent study on the mysterious beats, puts it this way. What happens is when you listen to two pure tones separated into each other, the tiny difference causes a frequency mismatch as the sound travels to the auditory part of your brainstem. Simply put, if your right ear is hearing 260 Hz and your left ear is hearing 250 Hz, then your binaural beat comes in around 10 Hz. What makes binaural beats interesting is the ability to synchronize or entrain your brain's electrical response to adhere to a certain rhythm, and rhythmic stimuli can help people concentrate. There are several types of beats. Delta is the lowest frequency, just 0.5 to 4 Hz. Next is theta, between 4 and 7 Hz. Alpha beats range from 7 to 13 Hz, and beta is from 13 to 30 Hz. Finally, gamma includes sounds from 30 to 50 Hz apart. Delta binaural beats may help people sleep more deeply, while beta beats may help people stay more alert. The Global Drug Survey, an independent research company based in London, conducted a survey of voluntary participants. It found that 5.3% of respondents, over 1,600 people who completed the survey, reported using binaural beats either alone or in combination with other drugs or treatments. Respondents most commonly used binaural beats to relax or fall asleep, that's 72.2%, and to change their mood, about 34.7%, while 11.7% reported trying to get a similar effect to that of other drugs. The effect of music on people has been studied for long. For instance, it's said if babies are made to listen to classical music, they'll turn out to be smarter. Studies showed that those who listened to Mozart and Strauss had markedly low systolic and diastolic blood pressure, as well as lower heart rates. ABBA's tunes, on the other hand, didn't produce the same effects. There's also Mozart's music that can increase your general intelligence. What are your views about this?
Bharat Biotech's COVID-19 nasal vaccine has been approved for emergency use for those above 18. This means an intramuscular shot isn't now the only strategy available against COVID. Viruses like COVID enter the body through mucosa tissues that line the nose, mouth, lungs, and the digestive tract. The vaccine would use a chimpanzee cold virus to deliver a harmless copy of the COVID spike to the lining of the nose. The vaccine is easy to administer as it is non-invasive and does not require trained healthcare workers. You just need to squirt it in your nose. It further eliminates needle-associated risks such as injuries and infections. The Hyderabad-based firm completed clinical trials of the nasal vaccine with about 4,000 volunteers. No side effects were reported so far, but there are also questions about its effectiveness. In some flu vaccines, attempts to deliver vaccines like this have not been successful. India's COVID situation is improving. India reported 4,400 new coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, which is the lowest in the last 3 months. The active cases comprise 0.12% of the total infections. And the national COVID-19 recovery rate is also improving and has increased to 98.69%. About 213 crore doses of COVID vaccines have been administered so far.
In association with LIC, हर पल आपके साथ।
Big verdict in Gyanvapi case. Hindu side's plea upheld. Celebrations erupt in Kashi. Shivling or fountain, courts will decide. Stage set for Gyanvapi hearing, the big focus on 5 Live.
After Ayodhya, the scene now shifts to epicenter Kashi. Game is on as far as the Hindu and the Muslim side are concerned over the Gyanvapi Mosque. Is that a Shivling inside? Are those Trishul symbols inside? Are those swastika symbols inside? Did Aurangzeb build the Gyanvapi Mosque over a temple? Many of these questions are beyond debate, but to prove the truth, the courts will now decide. It will not be one side or the other. Advantage to the Hindu side today because the maintainability of the plea has been upheld by a district court. I'm going to decode for you precisely what that means here. On 5 Live, I'm Shiv. These are the headlines. India Today's scoop on Ayodhya Mandir, the idol of Ram Lalla will be installed in the Sanctum Sanctorum in January 2024. 15-month countdown to the Ayodhya Ram Mandir begins. Big showdown over Congress tweet showing RSS shots on fire. BJP hits back, says Congress will be reduced to ashes too. Amidst growing chorus for CBI investigation in Sonali Phogat murder case, Goa government finally gives in. Chief Minister Pramod Sawant recommends CBI probe, says family's demands will be fulfilled. Delhi Police's Economic Offences Wing issues second summons to Jacqueline Fernandez. The actor skipped summons today in connection with the 200 crore rupees Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scandal. National Investigation Agency cracks down on wanted gangsters. Raids across 60 locations in India. Gangsters like Lawrence Bishnoi, Goldie Brar on radar in the wake of the Sidhu Moosewala murder. It's advantage to the team Shivling, as it were, in the long-standing Gyanvapi case. This is a case that came to prominence only earlier this year, and then it went off the radar in wake of the entire Nupur Sharma controversy. It is back in the headlines today because a Kashi district court has upheld the maintainability of the plea from the Hindu side, which claims that there is a mandir on which the Gyanvapi Mosque has been built. that the fountain and the Wazukhana has been built over a Shivling, among several other claims. What this basically means is that the stage is set for a court battle, and the courts will decide which side is actually correct. This is the new Mandir versus Masjid battle that has erupted in the wake of what happened in Ayodhya. I want to go straight now, live with the biggest newsmaker of the day, Harishankar Jain, petitioner in the Gyanvapi case from the Hindu side. Harishankar ji, आपका स्वागत है. What is the next step, Harishankar ji? आज जो फैसला दिया है कोर्ट ने, इसके बाद नेक्स्ट स्टेप इमीडिएटली क्या है आपके साइड का?
देखिए, टुडे जजमेंट इज ए लैंडमार्क जजमेंट इन लीगल हिस्ट्री so far as the Hindus' interests are concerned. Now we will proceed further and try that entire place where the Hindu puja was going on since 1993, and Mulayam Singh government ousted the Hindus. Not only that, Pujari was also ousted. In Tehkana, the Pujari was ousted, and several places Hindu puja was stopped. mosque-Shringar Gauri puja was stopped. That is reduced to 1 day in the year. I will try that all should begin, number one.
Yes.
Number two, the so-called mosque cannot continue there. The so-called mosque is a simple construction, not a mosque, and the original shape of temple be restored, because originally it was a temple. In 1669, under the orders of Aurangzeb,
Yes.
the Hindu temple was demolished. Therefore, we are not going to tolerate that atrocity forever. And that historical wrong has to be corrected. And not only here, I have filed number of cases, and I will be filing number of cases in different parts of the country.
Yes.
I have received information, I have collected materials, and after studying, I am making research on all those. My team will research, and after researching on every aspect, we will file all those cases. And it is a moment that if we have to take back all the temples which were captured, demolished, destroyed, or in any way defaced by Muslims.
Harishankar ji, I'll come to the other temples in just a moment.
Culture
Sir, I'll come to the other temples in just a moment. I'd like to ask you about that as well, but just want to finish my questions for our viewers on the Gyanvapi issue. Harishankar ji, the ASI survey has happened. It has, revealed a Shivling-like structure. What happens to that ASI survey? Will there be another survey now?
देखिए, the ASI order that was stayed by the Honorable Allahabad High Court, and that matter is pending before the High Court. That was listed today.
Yeah.
We are not concerned with that. Question is the Shivling, which have come to light, emerged on 16th May. There must be a carbon dating, there must be ASI survey, and abhi whatever the commission report is, that is not full, that is half. Full report regarding what is beneath the structure, that should also come. There is a debris. In debris, if you go, you will find number of idols, broken idols are there. I have to prove that. So certainly we will try for another commission. We will try for the carbon dating as well as ASI survey. But before that, we will move certain other applications which we will decide after a meeting and discussing with our legal team. Firstly, the Muslims are required to file the written statement.
What you are saying, Harishankar ji, is that beyond the Shivling, beyond the Trishul symbol, the swastika symbol and certain other things, you are saying there is more evidence. There is more evidence to support your plea, sir. Is that what you are saying?
There are full of evidences. Full of evidences. There is debris just behind the western side of the wall. You will find that at the wall itself there are number of scriptures, and beneath the wall there is debris. In that debris there are idols, and not only that, in Tehkana also there is a debris, and that debris If we find number of idols, we will try to bring on record all those facts before the court.
Okay.
And that will be our plight to prove that. And we'll prove.
Sir, you are one of the
commission
petitioners.
report, what you are talking, that is.
You are one of the petitioners in this case,
I am
Harishankar ji.
I am advocate.
The
for
lead petitioner in the case. How was the mood in Kashi today, sir?
I am
You know, we
advocate.
could hear the Har Har Mahadev chants that came out after the verdict came out. What was the mood like in Kashi today?
After verdict, I and my son, both and my supporters, they rushed to the temple. We communicated this order to my Lord Shiva, and prayed that give me the strength to fight more and to fight for establishment of the temple in its glorious shape, which my Lord had established 12 lakhs of years before, when the Kashi was founded by Lord Shiva. And I think the Lord Shiva will give us strength, he will bless us, and we will be able to build a new temple at the place where so-called mosque is existing at present. Because that mosque is no mosque that will be constructed after demolishing Hindu temple. And this fact has been recognized by the Supreme Court in 1997 judgment. Justice Ramaswamy has said in his judgment that temple was demolished in 1669 by Aurangzeb. So the question that it was demolished, that is proved and that is being held by the Supreme Court. That is not an issue. The issue is how we have to get it back. That is the only question. That is the only question.
Sir,
there is Farman. I am not going to.
Uma Bharati has suggested that the two sides, the Hindu side and the Muslim side, should try and reach some kind of an out-of-court settlement. You know, not let this be a court ruling, but an out-of-court settlement. What do you think of that suggestion, sir?
I respect Umaji. She is a good leader. She is a vibrant Hindu. But this suggestion is not admissible to me. There is no question of any negotiation. You can't negotiate God's property. You cannot negotiate private property. Here is the God property. But a question of negotiation. How a negotiation can be? How there can be negotiation? Whether we can negotiate our mother, our land, our deity. How it is possible? What power we have got? It is God property. आप कहते हैं आप माँ के बारे में समझौता कर लो. अरे मेरी वो धरती माँ है मेरी. समझौता कैसे हो जाएगा? वहाँ पर शिवलिंग आज से लाखों साल पहले हुआ था. You came later on. You came captured a invader, and now you say that I have come in your house. I have captured. Now compromise. So what is this? It is lawlessness. We are not going to permit this lawlessness, and with due respect to every leader, do not suggest us for any compromise.
You're saying
it may be your political agenda. We are not concerned.
I understand that. What you're saying, Harishankar ji, now is that on the back of this verdict in Kashi, you want to move applications and and affidavits in different parts of the country. That's what you're saying. You're drawing up a list of similar cases involving temples and masjids in different parts of the country, and you want to make this like a chain reaction.
Cases, movement of filing cases going on. I have filed case Mathura. I have filed case Taj Mahal, for Qutub Minar, for Bhojshala, Lakshman Tila at Lucknow, and number of cases going on. And it is my plight that out of 3,000 temples which were demolished by Muslims, we have to take it back. Otherwise, there is no question in freedom. Freedom के मतलब होता है कि गुलामी की चीज हटा दी जाए. This science of slavery that must go. My Prime Minister Modi ji, while inaugurating Vista, Central Vista, when the statue of Subhash Chandra Bose was installed, he has said that all the science of slavery that should go. I want to ask whether the cultural heritage of India, whether Lord Ram, Lord Shiv, Lord Krishna, our cultural heritage, our god and goddesses, our temples, that be not restored back. I think that Modi ji will abide by what he has said and will help us in doing what we are doing.
I hope I hope there are no concerns. You know, the atmosphere is very polarized, sir, especially politically speaking in the country. Justice must be served. The legal route is being taken, which is the correct route to take in all such matters. Are you concerned about communal harmony in Kashi or elsewhere in the country owing to cases of this kind? Because after all, this is to do with religious sentiment.
No. Kindly consider, in my 35 years of doing all this work for Hindutva, you will never find that I have uttered any single word. You will never find that I have done anything against law. You should go legally, in court of law. There is no question of communal harmony disharmony. I am according to law. If other party takes law to hand, it must be dealt with by the administration. We are not concerned.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that.
The question is this fear that if you go to court, there will be communal disharmony. So it is curse on our constitution. And you say, what is the constitution? You go for perfecting your right, legal right, and so there will be communal disharmony.
Okay.
I am not going to accept all these things.
Okay.
I am not going to concern with communal harmony, but at the same time, I have to maintain law and order situation.
The courts will decide.
I am instigated to do anything.
Absolutely. And congratulations, because today is definitely a big win for the Hindu side. You're the lead petitioner for the Hindu side here. So we'll have to see what the courts decide. A fair judgment is expected. We'll have to see. It's been appealed, of course, in the Allahabad High Court. The stage is set for a court battle to see which side is victorious. Hari Shankar Jain is the lead petitioner in that case, being seen as a big victory for the Hindu side. The Gyanvapi Mosque Kashi Vishwanath Temple case. You remember, viewer, this was the big dominant headline at the beginning of this year, in the winter months as a matter of fact. And then there was the Nupur Sharma comment, and this case went into court, and then it kind of disappeared from the headlines, and that entire story took a very different hue over those comments over Prophet Muhammad, the huge backlash, and then the blasphemy politics that so shamefully played out. Now today, the Hindu party's petition has been upheld by the Kashi District Court. This means that the hearing will now begin on the merits of the case, and the plea submitted by the Hindu side has basically been found to be maintainable, which is basically legal speak for, yes, it is admissible, it's not nonsense. The court will decide now if that is a Shivling in the mosque or is it a fountain. Here's a look at what happened in court today.
Big win for the Hindu side in Gyanvapi case. Jubilant scenes and Har Har Mahadev chants broke out in the Varanasi district court premises. Soon after, the court upheld the maintainability of a plea by the Hindu side for daily worship of deities on outer wall of the Gyanvapi Mosque.
हिंदू पक्ष में आया है, हम सबको खुशी है। आज काशी बम बम बोल रहा है।
सर्वे के दिन हमने यह कहा था कि बाबा मिल गए। आज का विजय का उत्सव जो है, यह काशी विश्वनाथ के शिलान्यास का बीजारोपण का यह प्रथम दिन होगा।
The landmark order paves the way for hearing on the plea to worship Mosque-Shringar Gauri, a key demand of Hindus. It also opens up hearing on the findings of the survey, which unearthed an alleged Shivling, Trishul marks and other Hindu relics inside the mosque.
बड़ी जीत है, इतनी बड़ी जीत है